Well, let's see how long it takes for people to get here.
Yeah. Well, start over.
Yeah. Tick, tick, da, da, dee, da, 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 da. Okay, who showed up there? We've got one showing now.
Two gold banner.
How's the
gold banner?
how's the audio? Yeah, YouTube sucks, man. If you, I mean, I thought I hit go live.
I'll take electron screw-ups for 500, Alex.
Yeah. Thank you, Gold Banner. Yeah, it's just crazy. You know, you hit go live and all of a sudden it goes somewhere else and then you can't back up. It would be nice if there was a backup to the last thing so I could, because either that or change camera while you're in the middle of the stream thing, you know?
Oh, well.
Okay.
It's not the first rodeo.
Yeah, everyone's getting kind of used to that. It's only 6:01. I'm only a minute late.
Hey, Tricky, Jeff.
Yeah.
Kevin.
Chris
Adam.
hasn't shown up.
Well, we'll get everybody.
He's probably thinking, my internet's fucked up again. Anyhow. Okay, so we got 10. Let's see if we got anyone else showing up in the next few seconds. Sorry about that, folks. Again, when you use YouTube and something goes wrong, you can't fix it. It's crazy. You got to just start. I mean, Jim will tell you, I was trying to get rid of the old stream. It wouldn't let me do it.
Couldn't delete it.
Yeah. There you are.
Hey, Chris.
Yeah, Chris.
Hi, everybody.
Bloody YouTube. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's an understatement.
So anyhow, as I say, that's kind of our issue as usual. Your audio is still crap. How's everyone else?
Yeah.
Does everyone else, does it sound good to them? Or because Chris often has problems. Hi, Terry.
Hey, Terry.
Well, that's because Chris lives in California. They're spying on him.
Gold Panner says, I thought it was fine. 5x5, good.
All right. Well,
California.
Well, let's see.
Hey, Smoking. Richard says not great.
Well, it'd be kind of nice to know where the mic was. Because David says it's fine. Tricky says so-so. Yeah, it's hard to tell which one is what.
You bump the camera there a little bit. The camera flipped sideways on us. Just turn it.
Oh, yeah.
We're close.
Boy.
There we go. That's too
pretty
bad.
good.
That's pretty good.
Sin says it sounds a little
Muffled.
Okay. You guys want me to restart again? Either that, unless somebody knows how to reselect the microphone while doing the live stream. Because I can mute. You don't have access to this feature, whatever that is. You don't have access to this feature. Manage. Well, it doesn't allow me to manage anything. Yeah, it's just crazy. Audio source is the one on the camera, huh? Okay. Sounds like the mic is near your pocket. How about this? Or this? I can reboot the whole thing and do it again. Just talk at the camera.
Hi!
Tricky says the camera.
Yeah.
Okay. If I speak loud and project from the diaphragm, can you hear me? Verily, I say. So if we just speak loud, is that going to be okay for everybody? Or do you want me to reboot? your choice. It sounds like me to me.
All right.
Yep. Oh, okay, smoking. Okay. So, now with the usual YouTube screw-ups out of the way.
Hey.
Oh, Tricky doesn't like it, huh? Oh, ouch. Huh? Verily you like not my Shakespeare? Ha! I laugh, varlet.
A pox upon your house.
So anyhow, good news, tentatively, I think I have identified the reason I wasn't getting the gold out that I thought I should. The positive is I'm now getting what, with one test, got over 100% recovery. Second test, I haven't had time to part the beads, but it looks like it is at 100% or better. Now, right away, some of you might be going 100% or better. Yeah, it's kind of weird, but anyhow, let's see. There's a couple beads there, and the large silver one is primarily in-corded silver, and the small yellow one is, I presume, primarily gold. And those are from the third stage resin. Let's see how these look. Yeah, it's not too bad. There's some beads there and some flat mashy beads there. And I'll explain.
There you go. That might be better.
Kind of hard to see the flat ones, but yeah. And that's, you demand 100. I may be able to beat you, Lars. Okay? Don't tempt me. Because I may kick your butt on this one. Anyhow, let me explain the whole system here. Let's go ahead and drag this a little closer. Okay, that looks pretty good. Okay, so this is the system that we put together last fall. We have the mill. It's a little more complicated than a box, but for our purposes here,
The mill.
the mill. Okay. And the solution from the mill goes through resin absorption. We have stage 1, then stage 2, then stage 3, and then back to the mill. Okay? Can everyone hear me when I'm looking away from the camera? If not, let me know. But anyhow, as you can see up here, the stage 1 resin was loaded at about 10%. The stage 2 was loaded about 6%, and the stage 3 was loaded about 1%, according to the volumes of solution that I approximated going through there, and the samples that I took to the local lab of the solution, and they analyzed the concentrations at these points here. So I have separate numbers for each stage. And so that allows me to do this. Now, originally, I was just going to do stage 1 and maybe stage 2. Okay? And then when I ran into some problems not getting the recoveries, I actually took some of this stage 3 resin because we had a problem. These calculated recoveries were not what I was getting from the smelting. I would take this resin here and dry it. We take the dry resin, mix it with a flux, smelt it down, and originally I wasn't even trying for a lead button. I was just trying to see if I could get a bead. Okay? And then there's cupelling here and a bead. Now I've gone to adding litharge, so I create lead in the process. And so I wind up with a lead button here, which I then have to cupel, and I forgot to write down cupel. Oh my goodness, I'm an old geezer. And that would give me a gold and silver bead. Most of them were pretty high in gold. They were pretty yellow. Okay. And by weighing those and this and that, I was coming up short. Okay. I was only getting 50, 60%
Correct.
of the gold per gram of resin that these numbers here were calculated at. Now, this was very distressing. It's always unfortunate when the mass balance doesn't work out right. But when you're off by 50%, life sucks. Okay. Especially when it's to the wrong side.
Right.
Okay. So all these question marks are what we don't know about various things. The solution tests, were those accurate or not? I have no way of independently determining that by myself. I could send off a solution sample to another lab or something like that. The resin itself I sent off for fire assay, although I knew that could be potentially problematic. Okay. The fire assayer, that's not his forte, and he doesn't do it very often. It gave him some problems, so we couldn't be absolutely certain of what this concentration was. It was a sample of this I sent off to the fire assay. That assay seemed to
It was close to what you had.
close to what I was recovering,
Right.
so that threw this
In the question.
into question. Okay. Now, there's a couple of different types of ICP machines. I wasn't aware of this. Induction coupled plasma, basically they just heat the sample with a variable magnetic field, kind of like a microwave, sort of, and turn it into a plasma and then analyze it. Now, there's two different ways of analyzing it. One is through photometry. You look at how it affects light. And the other one is mass spectrometry, where they actually accelerate it through a magnetic field and see how it's affected by the magnetic field and the velocity. And that gives you charge and size of particles and things like this. They're two actually different machines. They both say ICP,
Right.
but they're different machines. Just kind of like a GM Spark or whatever they call it, Volt, versus a GM diesel pickup. They're both vehicles, and they're both made by GM, but they work a little different. So anyhow, optical emission spectrophotometry. Okay, so you're looking at the glow of the plasma. Now, each one has different potential interferences, but they should be different interferences.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the lab that was over here was running all of my samples on his ICP photometer. Okay. So I asked, is your other machine photometry or mass spec? He goes, mass spec. I go, okay, could you run this unknown sample of liquid I'm handing you? It's one of our solutions through mass spec and see what you get. Because I already have a number you've given me for this solution,
Right.
From the other machine.
Right.
So he ran it through the mass spec, and the photometry was 30.4 parts per million, and mass spec was 30.8 parts per million. Now, that is good agreement. That's in the real world, that's pretty darn close. Okay. It's certainly not nearly enough to make up for what was going on here. So then the next question is, if the gold is in fact in the resin, as the samples indicate, where is it going? Now, I had oven baked the resin to test. And so the question was, could that possibly be driving off some kind of molecule or complex with gold in it or something? So it forced me to go to stage 3 resin because I'd already cooked this stuff too. So, because I was trying to cross-check this against that. and see if I got the same kind of result here that I was getting there, which I did. Okay. So now I had to go to the number 3 cartridge, which unfortunately is a lot lower concentration.
Right.
But it was still, hi Chuck, it was still wet straight from the process. So I kept most of it wet. I took out about a 30-gram sample. And then I dried that sample and split it in two, and I took the other half and oven baked it at about 400 degrees. Okay. I cooked it pretty good for what you can do with an oven. So I had 3 different samples from the stage 3 resin to see if, when I ran the process that I was using, are the results going to line up, or is suddenly at one point I see all of a sudden it just dropped, which would indicate, okay, that I'm got some evaporation. Okay, that was the theory. You know, let's eliminate that. It seems highly unlikely that at such a low temperature as 400 degrees, you're going to lose something. But at this point, there's no likely explanation we could think of. Let's try different things. So I did that, and then I started running these samples. Now, another thing I did, for those of you who are not familiar with fire assaying, in a fire assay, you have a flux that's designed to digest whatever the raw material is once it gets melted, you know, rock or whatever. And then you also have what's known as litharge, which is lead oxide. And if the rock is naturally reducing, like it has sulfides in it or whatever, you don't need to add a reducing agent. If it isn't, then they typically add a little bit of flour, just regular baking flour. And that will tend to reduce the lead oxide to metallic lead. And as it does so, it'll tend to basically wash the gold out of the digested rock in a fire assay. In this case, it washes the gold theoretically from the resin, but also the resin being basically a hydrocarbon, you know, it's a plastic. It needs to have oxygen added to it to break it down to carbon dioxide and water and such to give up the gold. And the litharge adds that oxygen to it. As a matter of fact, for every 1 gram of resin, you can digest or reduce about 5 grams or more of litharge into about 4 grams of lead, 4.5 grams, somewhere around there. It's a pretty good reducing agent for the litharge. Okay, so yeah, you can use carbon, green wood. There's a lot of things you can put in there, but say the whole idea is to break down the resin. So, you know, I was trying to use potassium nitrate to oxidize the resin. That's where I was getting the flame shooting out and things like that. It was pretty vigorous reaction. So we went with litharge both to slow down that oxidation and to provide a collector metal. Okay. Now, lead itself is a so-so solvent for gold. Okay. Gold is not highly soluble in lead. If you got a little bit of gold and a lot of lead, it'll probably work. But gold is infinitely soluble in silver, and silver is quite soluble in lead. So by adding silver to your charge, you're essentially adding like a detergent so that the fat can, you know, get washed away by the water, so to speak. And so Prospector Tripp, who's been doing some refining stuff, silverware, things like that, part of his process involves reducing the silver out of the solution. So he winds up with these small flakes of very thin silver and stuff. And I asked him, I said, you know, could I buy a couple ounces of that silver from you or whatever? Nah, I'll just send you some. So he very nicely sent me some of this very flaky silver.
Perfect.
So I'm adding silver into this whole charge now also as a salt to make it dissolve better. And when I did these samples, I had 3 of them where I had inquarted silver, but the silver gold bead, it looks like silver because it's got more silver than gold.
Right.
The difference in weight was not sufficient to give me the gold that I'm expecting. Okay. Now, question is, have you lost silver? Have you lost gold? Can't tell. We had to do what they call parting. Now, parting involves taking your silver bead, there's one right there, and you mash that little sucker down flat. As you can see, a couple of these are. And then you put it in hot, slightly diluted nitric acid and let it digest for a while. Okay? And then after that, you can weigh what's left, and that'll give you a darn good idea of how much is gold and how much is other. Because the nitric will dissolve almost anything,
Right.
including silver. And you can recover the silver later from the nitric, not a problem. So anyhow, last week I went to Lauren's house and we mashed three beads up, and 2 of them are still here and they're still looking pretty gold. That's because they were pretty much gold to begin with. They looked like gold. The other one is not in there in its original form, but you see that small round bead? That's the bead that was silver and gold. And when I look at the amount of gold in that and that calculate to the actual samples that it came out of, what I was losing was the silver, not the gold. So that's why those beads were coming up light, apparently light. It wasn't the gold that was the problem. It was the silver that was evaporating in the furnace. Now, the very nice and complicated book on fire assaying that I've got forgets to mention a few things. It's a textbook, and it's a guy who really knows his stuff. And the problem with somebody who really knows their stuff is they forget what they don't know.
Right. They leave out the things you should know.
Yeah. And for example, when he says the heat to do a crucible assay, he tells you the color of the furnace, not degrees Fahrenheit or degrees centigrade. And so anyhow, the Qpelling, he actually had numbers for. About, I think it was 1550 or something like that to start with, and then just as you get to the end, about 1600, okay, for Qpelling. And it said you're going to, if you take it higher, and he actually had some numbers like 1800 or something, you're going to lose a little bit of the silver. Not much, just some of it.
But you'll have losses.
Okay. Now, during the crucible assay part, I was having problems with thick slag. So to try and thin that out, I'd run my crucible assay up to 2000 degrees. Okay. To try and get that slag a little bit more fluid. Now, it's very difficult for an inexperienced person such as myself to know what's going on, especially when you can't watch it.
Right.
Now, the guy who wrote this book is like in the 30s or something, where typically in a big muffle furnace, you can actually see what's going on. Well, I can't see what's going on when I close the door to my little electric furnace. And so as certain processes are happening, which he described quite well in the book, I can't observe them happen.
Right.
So anyhow, what was apparently happening was I was just overcooking the beads. I was cooking the silver out of them and some of the gold. I was assuming that I wasn't cooking the gold because it didn't say anything about cooking the gold. It said you can overcook the silver. So I wasn't too worried about the gold. Apparently, I should have been.
Yep.
Okay. So anyhow, by importing silver, I also give myself some cushion. When the lead is gone from the bead, it takes a while to oxidize that silver too. Yeah, tricky.
Yeah.
Ha, ha,
Yeah, that'll
ha.
work.
Yeah, I don't even think a fused silica window would work on this one. But anyhow, so by importing some silver, not only do I make sure that it gathers stuff theoretically, but it also gives me some
that window.
cushion.
It gives you a window of opportunity.
In the Q-pelling.
Yeah.
Now, here's something I have found out. It's in the very top. It's not where you can see. It's only about a 1/4 inch diameter too, so you can't really see through it. You'd have to like drill a hole through the door and put a hole in the insulation, which could be done. Okay. The last sample I did, what I did was when I was Q-pelling, I was opening the door more frequently. Even though it's still just cracked open to get oxygen in there, I was keeping a closer eye on it. And when it got down to the point where I thought, well, is that, the silver left or not? It's getting real convex. It's bulging up there and stuff.
Stand up. Yeah.
Yeah. So I took the Q-pel out and I'm staring at it. Now, there's something called a blick. And what that is when you have a glowing molten piece of metal and it cools off, it has to give up energy to cool, so the light increases. Made a video about it just a few videos ago. You can actually see the blick. Now, the way good fire assayers with a muffle furnace do it, they watch and they see the blick and they go, aha, the lead is gone.
Yep.
The silver has now solidified and I can take it out.
Yep.
I can't see that happen. Yeah, flash is another name for it. So I took it out and I'm staring at it. There's no blick. It's like, interesting. So then I took a sharp knife. Now my Q-pel has cooled to the point where it's barely glowing at all. And I take a little knife I have and it just went in like it was wet solder, basically.
Right.
Now, silver is not liquid if it's not glowing. Okay. This was not glowing and it was liquid. Proof positive, there's lead there.
Yep.
So put it back in, waited a little while, looked like it had shrunk down to the reasons I took it back out. Then it blinked. Then I tap it, it's like, yep, that sucker's hard. So I'm pretty close. And that's what these two are all about. Now, the reason there's two beads in here, that was one test. However, again, remember I said my slag is kind of viscous? Well, when I did this process yesterday, when I poured the first pour to get my lead button, the lead always pours out easily.
Yeah.
Lead is extremely fluid. However, the slag was coming out kind of slowly, kind of like, what do they call that stuff? STP engine treatment.
Yeah.
Okay. And so I, poured some in there and stuff.
Plug.
set it off to the side, the crucible off to the side. Once it cooled, I broke off the slag and looked at it. It was just full of lead shot. I mean, it was, like 20-30% lead shot. It's like, okay, there's a lot of stuff that hasn't been collected here. And so I tried a number of different things, finally got a nice thin flux. The slag was hot, it was thin. I mean, you could see stuff moving in it,
Right.
that sort of thing. And when I poured it, it poured nicely. I got another lead button, and I then Q-pelled it, and I got that yellow colored bead in there from the second set of stuff. It was the same original sample, the same slag. It was just reworked a bit. So anyhow, when I take a look at the weights here and add up the silver I imported and the gold that was theoretically supposed to be there, I think there's a calculator over there. Yep. So I was expecting 0.09 grams of gold plus 0.25 grams of imported silver equals 0.34 grams. Those two beads are at 0.45 grams. So divide by 0.45. So there's about 1/4 more than what I'm supposed to have. Now that could easily be silver from the ore. But I'm going to need to part those beads in order to find out how much actual gold is in it. And that's another reason why I'm importing here, to make sure I have enough silver to part it. If you don't have an absolute minimum of 2 parts silver to 1 part gold, as the nitric acid starts dissolving, pretty soon it gets blocked off because it's just a solid gold surface it's trying to work through, and it can't do that. If you have 2 to 4 parts silver to 1 part gold, it can work its way in if it's thin. If you mashed it flat, and it leaves like a sinter sort of thing. It's a sponge gold, that sort of stuff, which you can then cupel again to make a bead. And that's what the smaller bead in there is. The smaller round bead, that's exactly what it is. It's the sponge gold put together. So what was my final flux recipe? Are you ready to copy, Tricky? Okay. Give me a yes, Tricky. Although I suppose you could always just rewind. This is at, what's the minutes? 32 minutes. So about 30 minutes in. 1 part resin, 1 part silica, 1 part borax, 2 parts soda ash, and 6 parts litharge. Okay. So I'll go back through that again. 1 part resin, that's oven dried resin. 1 part silica. 1 part borax. 2 parts soda ash. 6 parts litharge. And I also put in a nail in there because I had some matte in the last one. So toward the end I had a nail in there too. And yeah, it was very thin. It was very nice. It was a beautiful looking slag. It poured just fine. Okay. I will be doing more work over the next week or two to try and come up with a recipe that is, first of all, I prefer to avoid the nail if I could, but I would like to have a recipe that uses less litharge for 1 gram of resin. And since you probably need 4.5 to 5 grams of litharge minimum to oxidize that gram of resin, I'm going to try adding a little bit of potassium nitrate also, so I can cut back the litharge. The less litharge I use, litharge is expensive. Litharge creates a big lead button, which you then have to cupel. So your cupels, your cupel time, everything. The less button that you wind up with for the same amount of gold, the simpler, cheaper, and faster it's going to be. So I'm going to be trying that. I'm also going to try and make essentially a reusable cupel. Standard cupels, I think they're running a little less than $1 each for the big ones. When you buy a whole case, which was including shipping like 130, 140 bucks. Yeah. Let me see. I can actually tell you. That's Rico Goldex. Hello, blind dude. The Qpels were $99.25 with $61.76 shipping.
Well, that's
Okay.
gonna be on everything from here on, so.
So that would work better. Do you have a sack of it? Because I can't just tear apart batteries all the time, Tricky. I mean, I need to be able to buy a package of it, you know. That does have, I mean, it should have, you know, take half the lead for the same amount of oxidation. Hold on, Chris, let me finish. A Qpel is basically bone ash, generally compressed bone ash. However, you can also use cement, Portland cement, from what I've heard. If you took a metal cup, say a black iron pipe cap, filled it kind of compressed with Portland cement, scraped it flat, and then took, say, a soup ladle and just pushed it in there to get that concave surface, then you could theoretically put that in, use it, and then just dump out the Portland cement. Now, Portland cement's pretty cheap.
Yeah.
You know? So, as I say, that's the thing. Yeah, let's see, how much lead dioxide? Where we got? Amazon.com, just for jolly. Lead dioxide. Because that's not a bad
Powder, there you go. What was the powder there?
sodium chloride. See, that's what I just love. Lead dioxide. First thing comes up is sodium chloride. Sodium hydroxide, shea butter, mica powder, titanium dioxide, chlorine dioxide.
Probably can't buy lead anything.
I don't, who knows?
It is so funny.
I think
Let's try this one. Lead dioxide powder. Lead powder. Lead oxide. Now that's lead. Maybe that's lead 2. Let's see. I think that says lead. Lead 2 oxide powder. 200 mesh. 99.999. Okay, so we're talking analytical grade. 500 grams, so basically a pound. $800.
Ouch.
Yeah, don't need that quality. Do we have any cheaper? Lead dioxide. See, that looks better to me. Tellurium dioxide, lead powders, cupric oxide, lead oxide powders. See how much this, sorry, that page doesn't exist. Okay, it's going to be a little tricky, although we can ask, does anyone want to see what lead dioxide powder costs?
How much lead you
Car battery will give you what? 20, 30, 40, 50 pounds? You know? No, I don't need lead. I got lead oxide. I'd like to try lead dioxide. Yeah. How much lead dioxide do I need? Quite a bit. If I'm using 6 grams per every gram of resin, and even in this small test, I'm doing a pound of resin between stage 1 and 2. That gives me 6 pounds of lead dioxide or less. You know, I say I don't need metallic lead. You know, yeah, and roofing lead would work okay for doing certain things, like if I was going to take all these beads here and try and turn them into one bead, a little roofing lead wrapped around it and then set on a Qpel would work fine.
Regular lead would work.
You know, and be careful with it very tough. I know the litharge is toxic too. So that's why I'm trying to get something that, the nice thing about potassium nitrate is you need very little of it. So anyhow, I'll play some games with that and see what happens. And also with Qpelling. That could be washed off, Jeff. No, not lead metal. That's not what I need, but thanks a lot, Smoking. So anyhow, that's where we're at when it comes to the recovery. I think we have, oh, by the way, Tricky, don't forget, I inquarted a little bit of silver there too. About, I don't know what your ore runs. If it's running 2 parts silver to 1 part gold, you're probably okay. Yeah. And so if you're not at least 2, go ahead and incord enough silver to get past that 2 to 1, and then you can part the bead when you're done. It also gives you a little slack, but I mean, I've been trying to do a number of things at once too in that furnace.
Right.
And so say it would be nice to if I had a procedure, then it's like, okay, just take and pour
Boom, boom,
buttons, and then when I'm ready to Qpel, I can put a couple Qpels in there. So anyhow, that's where it's going. It looks like I'm actually recovering more gold than the original calculations show. Now, Chris sees this as something of a problem. I see it as a situation. Okay? Because a situation is something you should probably address, but it's not going to be painful.
Right.
Okay? And I agree that it would be nice to know just why the hell the calculations aren't apparently accurate. For example, the solution analyses may be low. We may actually have more in solution than we thought. It could be that my estimates of the volume are off, which is entirely possible, but it depends on how much extra I've got as to whether or not I could be off by that much. But again, since I'm getting more gold than I was expecting, I don't feel terribly stressed out about it at this time. When you're getting half the gold you expect, that gets rather stressful. And you get this feeling of urgency.
Like, what's wrong?
Yeah.
Where are we off?
So I'm feeling much more comfortable this week. And I say, plan is on Wednesday to go out to Lawrence again. By the way, it's really quality of resin, brand new. And it doesn't much matter what the quality is. What matters is how much the analyses show it absorbed. Okay. I think bismuth can also be used as a collector metal, but I'm unsure.
Bismuth, it's so pretty.
Jeff, I think Chris said it's used by electrolyzing lead, but I'm not sure. Yeah, I mean, it would be nice to know, Chris. Note how Chris, mass balance with missing variables is bad no matter what.
Yeah.
It's like, if I don't know how that $1 million showed up in my bank account, it's not necessarily bad.
It's only bad if it stays in your bank account and anybody can prove you got it erroneously.
Yeah. So anyhow, as I say, it's one of those things that as I go through the situation, another thing that is not readily apparent, when you're running at this low a concentration,
1%, guys.
a small difference in the amount you get, percentage-wise, is much bigger. When you get up to here, the 0.05 of a gram is not nearly as much. 2.5 kilograms. Yeah, I'd say you should be able to just do it straight. You wouldn't have to inquart if the the resin you're using is absorbing all the gold and all the silver. Okay. Or you're precipitating it or whatever. If you're getting both of them out, oh, you'll have plenty of silver. Yep. But anyhow, so I've still got a number of tests to do. And yeah, I think that, blind dude, I think that it can be. I just don't know. Need to be using like bismuth oxide though for this particular process because I'm using it to oxidize the resin. I don't know. Again, plenty of time to do it. If I'm in the money, I'm not stressing about having to fix it right away, sort of thing. I can take my time, breathe deeply.
No, you're on the right path anyway.
Okay, Mount Baker, huh? Okay, John, thank you. But anyhow, so I want to thank two people. First of all is, well, since Lauren's right there, Lauren, because the testing I've been doing is out at the end of a dirt road in the middle of winter in Montana, which sometimes can get interesting all by itself. But then the shop that I'm working in is not heated, which the word interesting isn't accurate. I think the word is somewhere to the south of uncomfortable.
Bitter hell.
Yeah, it can be really unpleasant. But Lauren has a shop, and I've asked him earlier today, and we're going to be setting up out there, assuming that my principal has no problem with it, which I don't think he will. I just haven't had a chance to talk to him today because it's President's Day. And go out there and set it up so I can work in his shop, and it'll be much more pleasant. I can work longer. Quite often when I'm over there, I get fed while I'm at it, which is yay. He's always very cheerful. It's a very, very pleasant environment to work in because the people are so nice and everything else. So that always makes things more fun. We even have a TV we can turn on and listen to the sound and everything. You know, it's just a whole lot better than sitting out in the middle of nowhere by yourself and damn cold. Okay, you know. Also, he has a small tabletop, the non-programmable model, and if my principal doesn't have any trouble with me taking his furnace out to Lauren's, then we can have twice the capacity too. And so that would. No, I think Lars, you pipe your exhaust through your shop for heat. I don't think
you really don't.
Your shop.
You really don't want it in.
Yeah. And so anyhow,
tricky. Yeah, brass monkey comes to mind. Yeah.
And that would be we could double production. Plus, he has line power out at the ranch. I have to run off a generator due to restrictions. So that's what I'm planning to do. I don't think they're going to be a problem with that, but I just don't have final approval at this point. And then I'll have a nice place to work. I can get a lot more done, and should get this thing figured out pretty quick. And then once I get it figured out, I still have 2 reservoirs of resin to actually just process. And in addition, Lauren has a bunch of old copper wire by his place and stuff. No, not yet, Chris. I've been kind of busy. It's in my email there, and I've just been, manually changing when I needed to. It's not too bad as long as your temperature is close to where you need it. You just hit hold, Can't bring Chris because Chris lives a long way away. Jim has an open invite, and he's just been busy at times when I was over there and such. But of course, he's
tricky asking us to go to the Philippines and help him.
Oh, is that? Okay, well, I don't know. We're kind of busy over here. Chris might want to go. I have no idea. He's in California, so, you know,
Halfway there.
yeah. Well, not only that, but it might, we're in a nice spot up here, considering the situation. Chris might be happy to relocate. We'll see. But anyhow, so we got that. And the other person I would like to thank is Prospector Trip for giving me that silver. It's probably between 1 and 2 ounces of silver. I don't know. I haven't tried. Do you have a phone number for the assayer? Yes, I do.
That worked out well.
Yeah. Oh, I think someone would check those. Okay, get ready with your pencil there, Applied Knowledge. And here's the information on Lawrence Hiddle. Hello, Sean.
Oh, Sean.
I think I may have it working now, and then it'll be just optimizing. Let's say, first thing is to get that slag thin, consistently thin, so that the beads of lead can settle through it just fine. Then the next thing will be try and reduce the litharge.
So you got it.
Good grief.
Good.
And then the other thing is try and minimize the cupelling. Get something more substantial and cheaper, if possible, for a cupel. Let's say we could, if the Portland cement works, good. If not, maybe just buy bags of bone ash. I don't know.
They're really trying to beat the drums of war.
Yeah, pretty much.
You's not looking good.
And but things seem to be looking up here, and then in about 9 days I have to have hernia surgery. So that will knock me down for a couple of days, and then I'll have to be on light duty for quite a while.
For a while. Yeah, that'll take a while to
But-
heal up good.
Things like smelting and stuff like that. Magnesium oxide, is that for the, that would be for cupelling. Okay, thank you, Chris. Yeah, instead of Portland cement, magnesium oxide also works on cupel. Correct, Chris? Yep. Now let's see here. I don't think I'll lose the live stream. I'm looking at a new tab. Magnesium oxide. Feed grade. Wow. $38 for 50 pounds.
That's cheap enough.
So that doesn't look too bad. Might be able to get a feed store so I don't have any shipping too. They might be able to just order
Yeah,
it.
they probably could.
We got a number of farm supplies here. Thank you, Chris. Appreciate that.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Could you
I'm sure we
close the
could
tab?
make
Thank you.
I'm sure we can make a die for you to pound them out.
What are they?
Blind Dude, if you look back a little over a year from now in my stuff, you'll see when we first came up here last winter, we stopped at Jimmy's place, and he had an old exercise, thing that shakes your thing,
Yeah.
and he put some wood things in it, and it would hold a frickin' classifier screen and shake the bejesus out of it.
That was a good idea.
It was hilarious, man. It was just amazing. But yeah, you're welcome, Applied. Chuck, I think with the old style, I had one 1990, had hernia surgery. And it was really uncomfortable. There was about 4 days where I really didn't like moving. This moving thing seemed like a really good idea. But
Yeah.
any idea
Hey, Goldscreen,
the title?
of your video.
Oh,
That video,
no, I
that'd be
don't.
Up at Jimmy's place or something?
I don't know. Let's see here.
I can't remember.
I don't know. I think I can open another window in Hard Rock Q. If I lose everybody, then we'll get the right microphone next time. Let's see what happens. There it is. Videos. Scroll down.
Yeah, be a ways back there.
621. Yeah, that's quite a ways back here. Happy Reunion. Let's see, 221. Okay, I'm getting an iPhone. So much cheaper chronometer. That one's before that. Oh yeah. Gosh, I don't know.
That's the first.
That's where I was at Jimmy's there.
That's here.
That was here?
Yeah, that's here.
That was you?
I think that was the first time I was here.
1/17/21.
It'd be in that era though.
Oh, testing Montana Meteor on an RP4 table. That's Jimmy's table
Okay,
there.
okay.
So I think we shook it, so we'd have screen material to put on the table. It would be
195.
The emergency vac.
195. Testing Montana Meteor on an RP4 table, and the date is between 110 and 1/17/2021.
That helps you.
Okay. Use an orbital sander. That might not be too bad. You have to put it on top. Just I had one of those things. Yeah.
Well, it passed.
I'm not surprised because they were phrasing it as a vote of no confidence.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Elmer's glue and bone ash with a press and dyeing. You can make your own.
And you can buy bone ash 50-pound bags.
How much does that cost?
It wasn't, if I remember right, it wasn't that expensive.
Sheep bones are supposed to be the best for keto.
I don't know.
You can buy bone ash, though. I know you can.
I found holding a vibrating massager on the fine screen speeds up dry screening. Now get your mind out of the gutter. Okay. So anyhow, there we are. Lots of cheap vibratory motors on the Chinese websites.
Yeah, here comes the question. Comments. Yeah, see what happens there, smoking.
So, as I say, there's lots of options in terms of Qpelling when we get to that point. I ordered a case of them. I forget how many they are, but it's 60 pounds of the big Qpels.
Yeah.
So it's. Do you recall a little one?
You'll last a while.
Like 160 of them or something.
Yeah, it's like 144 or something.
Yeah, Eva's thinks it was like 144 or something like that. Probably depends on how well it packs in the particular thing. Shiny rocks, huh? Okay, Shiny. And who were you? What did Eva say a minute ago? It was about the how many were in the Qpels were in the case. Yeah, I forget what it was. But let's see. Do I have this? Wow. I'm on the other one, huh? Let's see. Inbox. Go to that. It should say, yeah, there's the email you sent me there, Chris.
You had one from Legend up there.
Where?
Right. Let's see. Right there. Payment to Legend.
Yeah, that was it.
Okay.
So, invoice ID. Well, it'd be kind of nice if they give you a little better description, huh?
No, it doesn't say.
I hate it when they do that. Oh well. Anyhow, it was I think it was a small case. They have even bigger cases of them.
I suppose for labs or something.
Yeah, if you're gonna buy a whole crap load. What's Eva got for us tonight? Quite
No
a bit.
idea.
She'll freeform it as usual.
We will be discussing.
She was talking about bone ash. Bone ash is the standard one. I think magnesium oxide is the premium material for cupels. It has to be a particular size. She said sheep bones make the best cupel material according to her information.
It's in your book.
It's in our book.
The textbook says sheep bone.
Okay. As of 1930, it was sheep bones. I don't think bones have changed that much since then, but far be it from me. You know, the magnesium oxide might be something new. Anyhow.
I would pay attention to the book.
So that's kind of where we're in there. Well, I'll make videos. Lars says he uses duck bones. Huh? You know how many ducks you got to kill?
Well, you know.
Yeah, Robert, you're right. The wrong mic got
You know, we can
activated.
collect all different kinds of bones, and I can dry them and
Yeah,
burn them and
it's
put
all
them in
man.
bone ash and fix them.
Sounds like
Argonaut likes sheep. You got big floppy boots, Argonaut.
Argonaut likes sheep. That worries me.
Yeah. Never tried to quash quartz in a cast iron pan. I presume it was hard on the cast iron pan.
Yeah, good way
Yep.
to get
Uh-huh.
shrapnel going.
Yep. That'll do it. So anyhow, that's what we're looking at here. John, okay, Shiny Rocks, got it. Applied knowledge.
Okay, you changed it to shiny rocks. All right.
Sean, maybe so. I mean, there's certain things I'm sure we could arrange. Certain other things would be a little more difficult. So you can always ask, and let us know when you're going to be in the area, and we'll see what's up. We can usually get something going. Sometimes it might be a lot more exciting than others. So we shall see. Anyhow, that's where I'm at right now on the smelting. I think I've got it fixed. And even once we're smelting and everything, probably sometime in the future we'll be testing elution and either precipitation or direct electrowinning out of the elution solution, because that way you don't get rid of your resin. And so, hi Brett, how's it going?
Hey, Brett.
And let's say it gives you another option too. I was hoping we could direct smelt without the collector metal and without the cupelling. It's looking less and less likely at this point. But if we can reduce the amount of lead needed and thereby reduce the cupelling, it might not be too bad. I mean, I wouldn't mind, cupelling, 40 grams of lead to get 4 grams of gold.
Yeah,
that wouldn't be too bad.
Alchemy, dude. It's a thing.
Yeah, just say keep in touch if you're going to be in the area, Helena, Montana.
Yeah, or want to line something up, Sean, just email.
Yeah, you can email, or you can jump on the live stream, or just comment on any of the videos, and I'll get the comment.
Yeah, and we'll get back to you. Yeah, I agree, Goldstream.
Yeah, it's it's funny too. I'm getting about 2,000 views a day on my "Where Does Gold Come From?"
It's been coming up on my feed almost as one of the top ones all the time lately.
It's.
Tell them about the tree theory.
I was going to. Anyhow, so I get a number of comments in general. There's the least common one of the common ones is, wow, that was really good, thank you. The next least common one is, ancient Earth, ha ha.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's up to you to believe what you want.
Yeah.
The most common one is, gold is made in supernova explosions.
We've been through that.
It's like, okay, John there did it. But the one that always gets me is, all gold on Earth comes from ancient trees that was buried in the earth and this and that. And I'm like, yeah, right. So usually I just ignore those, but this week I was feeling a little obnoxious.
Have some fun commenting.
So I tried being very polite. And I said, in all my years of surface and underground exploration, I have never seen any physical evidence that tended to support that hypothesis. And then he reasserted his
some more crazy
his theory. So I said, and when in your underground explorations have you seen such a thing? How much underground exploration have you done? They get this stuff from internet videos and things.
Yeah.
And they believe it without actually checking things,
That's typical of media.
I agree, Chris.
No, we haven't seen Rob on here lately, and I thought about that. I don't think Rob's been on here since we actually went to Mondays.
Yeah, Chuck. I say it's great. I'm fearful of the time when I get so popular that I can't answer every comment or whatever. That's a good question, Adam. I don't know. I presume somewhere they have found some amount of gold, especially in the nickel iron asteroids, but I do not know for sure. Our local chemistry genius might have something to say about that, or Chris.
How about space diamonds?
See, Sid is here tonight.
Yeah.
What about the crater in Arizona? Not to my knowledge. They were actually mining for the nickel iron. They were mining for the nickel. And I once actually I was on a personally guided tour of Meteor Crater.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Eugene Shoemaker?
Heard the name.
Yeah. He was the tour guide. He's the world's foremost expert on it. When I was in junior college, this would have been mid-70s, roughly, in Arizona Western College in Yuma, the astronomy teacher arranged a field trip so anyone who wanted to go could go up to Flagstaff. We were going to camp out overnight for a night, and there was a meteor cratering symposium where all the big meteor cratering scientists from all over the earth were coming to Flagstaff, and they were presenting papers on Saturday and then going on a tour of Meteor Crater on Sunday. Yeah, as in Shoemaker Levy, exactly. And so it was a fun trip, I say, for a couple of reasons. First off, right off the bat, we're heading up there. We're up by Prescott. We're going to camp for the night, Friday night. And the teacher is not, let's say, as habitually prepared as I am. So we get up there. Nobody had any flashlights. Nobody had any fire starting implements, right? And so I said, no problem. Let's, use the headlights, because we were only in a single college station wagon. That was it. Okay. So I said, okay, fine. Let's gather some wood and everything for a little fire here. And got the little fire set. And then I go, okay. I pop the hood, open the carburetor, stuffed a piece of paper down the carburetor,
little gas.
Get it a couple times, get it wet, go over by the battery, spark, poof.
Fire.
The girls were quite impressed.
Yeah, fire.
But anyhow, that was hilarious. And then the next day I was sitting there and I just stuck my hand in my coat pocket and there was a couple books of matches because I'd been visiting somebody who was doing security guarding at a motel and they were just sitting there, so I put some in there. But it made me look much cooler in front of the chicks.
I bet.
And another one was on the day where they were presenting papers, they had a little 15-minute thing where Shoemaker was giving a real short, not terribly important talk, which gave people time to get a break, go to the bathroom, this, that, or the other, because they wouldn't miss anything. And his talk was on how he determined the size of the meteoroid, is the technical thing, that made Meteor Crater.
Wow.
And he goes, okay, now if you read in the things, it'll say it was, I forget what it is, 500 tons or something like that, right? He says, so here's how I got. First of all, we know the size of the crater, the amount of material that was excavated, the distance it was thrown, the amount that was pushed back into the walls, and this and that and the other. And you do all the math, and you can get the energy of impact within about 10%. Okay? He said, now, when you do all that calculation, then you can use mass times velocity squared to go from, you know the energy, to go back to mass if you know the velocity. Said, now here's the problem. And I'll get to you in just a second, Chuck. Nobody back there was hanging around with a radar gun.
Right, to know this.
So we don't know the impact velocity. So I picked a number out of thin air. It wasn't a stupid number. It's the median velocity, 30,000 feet per second. It's the most common velocity. It can vary anywhere from 20,000 to 60,000 feet per second. I don't know, and nobody knows. He says, so I plugged that into it, and I come up with 500 tons. He says, I don't know if it was 100 tons or 1,000 tons. We do know that they mined 167 tons of nickel iron from the bottom of that crater. So we have a minimum, and the number 500 tons seems plausible. But if you read in the encyclopedia, it says it weighed this much. I'm the guy that got that number, and I'm telling you, I don't know.
Not sure. It was a good guess.
Okay. And anyhow, so Chuck, you're building a crusher. Let's see. What kind of crusher here?
Somebody said something about a large dolly pot.
Yeah, something like a dolly pot.
Yeah, Chuck did.
Okay. If you're looking for a dolly pot type crusher, it's actually not called a crusher. It's just kind of a mortar and pestle sort of thing. I have actually, if you watch last night's live stream toward the beginning, you'll see the Mad Max mortar and pestle I built. And I did a little discussion because we had a gentleman from, I believe it was Austria, I believe it was 1000, had a question on that. So if you just go to last week's discussion, near the very, very beginning, okay? And yeah, we're going to be doing some of that tonight, Roberts. Anyhow, so that was kind of cool. And then the final day was actually doing the tour of Meteor Crater, where we walked all the way down to the bottom of the crater along a footpath, not the usual one the tourists go. This is another one. And he was interpreting all the rocks and everything as we went down, etc.
That'd be pretty cool.
And that was really cool.
Yeah.
So it was a great trip. I had a good time. But yeah, I thought that was pretty funny. So I just picked a number out of thin air. And that's what so many people don't realize, is so much of what you read in the newspapers and stuff is this kind of data. When's the last time you saw in a newspaper, it's 10,000 units plus or minus 5,000? You don't see the error bars. They never do. And so that's one of the big things that is deceptive to the average person, is they don't give you what the possibilities are in terms of how much error is in those calculations. What's your your confidence level, things like that. So that was very educational at a relatively young age. Yeah. Yeah, Chuck, I say, if you just go back to last week's live stream, it was in the first 10 minutes, I'm pretty sure, you know. Sean, listen carefully. On this live stream, if Eva hears the phrase, Arizona is a great place, you will hear.
Arizona sucks rocks.
Okay.
This is a known fact.
We moved up here from Arizona. I don't have a problem with Arizona, but I have a problem with some of the cities in Arizona.
Bear in
Tucson,
mind,
Phoenix.
he has no taste in anything. He's a Philistine.
Married you, right? Okay, Tricky.
So, you did something right once.
Okay.
Okay? Once.
Yeah, pretty much, Robert.
Once you accidentally stumbled upon a pearl beyond price there. Okay?
And she also wants me to get a T-shirt that says, I have gold balls. Don't ask me why she wants me to do that.
So people will ask about it. And you can tell them about your internationally famous YouTube channel. And I can tell them to buy silver.
Yeah, I'm not just some little dude off in the middle of nowhere there. I'm an internationally known YouTube celebrity.
You're also a regularly published author in one of the oldest trade journals in the United States for your niche.
That's true. I am.
Featured no less.
Yeah.
On the cover.
Shiny. The kind of grinder that goes on, the kind of mill that goes on a grinder is typically a little small chain mill. Look up Cobra Crusher. Look that up on the internet. And it's a fairly simple type
There's
device.
a couple of them on YouTube that guys made too.
Ouch, Goldstream. Yeah, Sean, I don't have any problem with Arizona in general. I say I lived there for many, many decades. But it is going to the liberals right now. It's getting pretty weird down there. And the thing that I don't like about it is that you got about 6 million people in the middle of a desert, completely and utterly dependent on the smooth flow of supplies and energy and water.
Yeah.
What could possibly go wrong in today's environment? Yep. Yeah. Testing your own ore, Chuck. Go back and look at my how to hand pan microfine gold and my speed prospecting videos. That'll help you out a lot in terms of a method that you can use.
That would help out a lot, Chuck.
That's pretty. If you're looking at placer ore, you're still going to need to pan. You'll use a somewhat different technique, but there's a lot of people that can show you how to pan conventional gold in the placer ore. It's just in a hard rock ore, when it gets down into that 500 mesh range, it takes a little bit of a different technique. And let's say, so for hard rock ore, a little bit of a different game. Different finishes all basically. But I've got, I think, 2, maybe 3 videos on speed prospecting, where you actually go in the field, you take samples, you process them right there in the field, so you can tell, at least on a relative matter, which are the better samples than the others. You still have to calibrate it against laboratory assays, because what you can't see is the gold is too fine to recover, period. And believe me, there is gold too fine to recover by gravity means. This one we're working at here.
Keith's got that ore.
Yeah. At Montana B is really just insanely small. We run 80% passing 2000 mesh. Okay. So that kind of fine gold just doesn't settle, period. So you have to use special techniques for that. But for the down to 500, 600 mesh, I can recover that pretty well using just a pan if it's liberated from the rock. But if you go back a ways, you'll see a number of videos that'll teach you that. If you go way back, you'll see one on how to take representative samples. I'd recommend that one because it's a different situation than you might think. And I have a lot of stuff on various mines where I've actually sampled and such, but the speed prospecting ones will pretty much have how I took the samples too, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. But that'll help you out a lot when it comes to hard rock mining. When it comes to placer mining, this is the dude that knows the placer mining here. And so that's it. To spike your metal detector, okay, Chuck, let me explain something to you. In hard rock, you almost never get stuff that'll hit a metal detector. I mean, seriously, that's really high grade ore there. Because a lot of real small particles don't hit on a metal detector like one larger particle.
No.
And therefore, even a high grade ore like our stuff, oh, I bet you it was set off a metal detector. It's 33% iron oxide. I'm pretty sure it would be screaming. Even with an MD20, which is about the best to do that with.
He had an assay earlier. He had a note in there.
You know,
So
with an MD20, you're in a lot better shape looking for gold in hard rock, and you should be able to occasionally find stuff in any really good rich mine. It's not going to take extraordinarily good ore to set off an MD20 every once in a while. But in terms of consistently, yeah, you can have 1 ounce to the ton all day long and not set off an MD20. It doesn't mean that some of it wouldn't, but you can have issues with, I say, hard rock is not like placer at all. A lot of people, for example, will go to old gold mine dumps and run over them with metal detectors and pick out, really good individual rocks that got missed in the initial mining and sorting process. And but then the problem with an MD20 is it only searches an area that big.
well, it's not. It won't give you some depth, a lot of depth either.
Yeah.
Depth is an issue in hard rock.
Yeah. So different detectors work best under different things. And yeah, I'll say that I understand the superfine stuff. Check my hand panning microfine gold stuff. That may help you out. The other thing is about 3 years ago, look at Wayne's magical panning technique. This guy was really good at panning some nasty flaky gold from the middle fork of the Boise, and he made it look easy. Do you remember that video?
Yes, I do.
He made it look so damn easy, didn't he? Yep. I never tried that, Roberts. And one of the things, Sean,
If you've got heavy magnetite too in the rock or heavy iron ore, it'll, a metal detector will set off on a lot of things that aren't gold. That's for sure.
Okay, yeah, I say that 200 minus to me isn't that big of a deal.
That's actually not that hard to pan once you look at Keith's videos, because he really does show you how to finally pan that gold efficiently, so you're not spending days doing it. The batteries might be bad at this point, Goldstream. I don't know. Shiny says cyanide leach is what they used that old mine I was looking at. Yeah, well, that was what the permit cost for me if I could get it. Cyanide is going to be really pricey.
If it's free milling gold and big enough, you could probably gravity extract it at reasonable efficiency. You need to have a good high grade ore, and it would have to be fairly coarse, which, when I'm talking hard rock gold, we're talking 200 mesh, 300 mesh is fairly coarse. Okay.
Yeah.
That sort of stuff you should be able to recover. Okay. The stuff down in Tucson, I was working from Ryan's mine. I was getting about 80% recovery, pulverizing it and running it over a gravity concentrator.
Well, and if you could do that and then recover your tailings at that point, there's a good chance that you could send those, once you had enough of that, to somebody else to do, a leaching situation or something else on. If you could just get out, if you can take out 80% of the free mill type gold, you might be able to let somebody else deal or buy the buy the tailings from you at that point.
Possible.
And let them deal with it.
It also eliminates a disposal problem.
Well, yeah, a permitting problem. It'll eliminate a
very much could be. And I mean, these are the sort of things you have to be a little innovative in today's environment. Well, it could be blind, dude, but that's not what we're talking about. This is a hand tool, not a handful tool. Because any stud finder female would definitely be a handful, that's for sure. Anyhow, I'm going to take a quick break here.
Are you about ready, Eva? Or?
Yeah, just about.
Okay.
We'll let you in, and then when Eva's done, when we come back, we're going to get into a little bit of placer stuff and kind of run around to that circle for a little while too. So.
Bear?
Yeah.
May I use your whiteboard?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Here.
Wipe it off and redo it.
One moment, guys.
Now, for those of you who are new to the live stream tonight, this is what we call the Tinfoil Hat Report. And Eva is wearing the tinfoil hat. And it's regulatory government stuff, things like that. And I would usually be doing my own version of sign language interpretation in the background. But right now with the whiteboard up there, I'm not sure how much I'm going to be able to do.
Well, of course, I'm a southpaw. Some of us,
through your head.
left-handed people are all in our right minds. Or at least in our right brains. Well, before I jump into mining news, apparently things are getting interesting in the world today. Vladimir Putin has decided to send some friends of his wandering into the eastern part of Ukraine where the separatists are. And a lot of people are annoyed by this. The separatists apparently are not annoyed by this. And old Socks up in Canada managed to get the emergency powers thing passed. And they're already talking about making some of those lovely confiscation things permanent. Yeah. Very interesting. And yes, Roberts, we are pushing like crazy. The rhetoric right now on MSN is just bizarre. I mean, absolutely bizarre. Oh, yeah. Jeff, I'm going to be holding our silver beyond 50. Okay. Silver is real money. I'm holding it. I'm encouraging people to find people in their local area that will take it at its value, not at its face value, but at its actual value. We need to start using it. Okay. We need to hold silver. Hold on for dear life. Diamond hands. And yes, or two. Yeah, only men who have never seen war want war. This is very, very true. Chuck, in this particular mine, you can't see the gold with the naked eye. Now he has had places we've mined before where you can actually really see the gold. It's really pretty and it's really cool and all that. You know, it's a thing. This one you can't see it. It's passing 2,000 mesh. So even I, who have extremely good eyesight, even though I wear glasses, am having a problem seeing it. But that's another thing, you know. Yeah. Goldstream, that's the way to do it. Leave it right in the ground so that you can just go and dig it up whenever you're ready. I'm totally in favor of this plan. So where did you say you were leaving it? You know, you might want me to, you might want us to come out and help you guard it. You know, we build a little cabin next to it, you know. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. We do need an electron microscope to see the gold from that mine. It's kind of bizarre, okay? But yes, there's all kinds of interesting things going on in the world, many of which we cannot talk about without YouTube getting very, very angry at us. With that in mind, I wanted to let you know that he is finally starting to download some of his videos, and I'm going to start trying to get a parallel channel set up for him on Rumble. When we do get a parallel channel set up on Rumble, we will let everybody know, and we will probably have live streams over there that can be more tinfoil hattish than live streams over here can be. You know, it's just one of those things. Still wondering what a jack shaft is.
Just a shaft on a couple of bearings that's driven by a pulley that really isn't driving anything else. Sometimes it's used for gear reduction. In this case, with an eccentric weight, it'll just shake whatever it's hooked to.
Well, Sean, you did exactly the right thing. That's what silver is for. Silver is a store of wealth. You build a stack, and when you need your stack for something, then you sell that stack either directly or you turn it into that fiat stuff with pictures of dead people on it and use it that way. And then you build a new stack. This is what we have to do until we get real money back. The provisional toll was provided by regional authorities following the blast in the village of Gulumbora, RTB reported. Really? Okay. Well, we're going to get to mining because I do believe Goldstream may be talking about this. There were about 60 people killed in a blast at an informal gold mine in Burkina Faso. Rest in peace, people. A little side note here. This is why we really need to rebuild the mining infrastructure in the United States, because it is disgusting that mining companies here are so choked by regulations that they go and exploit people in countries like Burkina Faso. That was probably not the case at this mine, but if you want to see some nightmare stuff, look at what the Panda Patrol over there, you know, those dudes are doing in cobalt mines and other mines in Africa. It's disgraceful, okay? Just disgraceful. About 60 people were killed and dozens more wounded on Monday in an explosion at an informal gold mining site in southwest Burkina Faso, state television reported, citing local officials. The cause of the explosion in Pony province was not just yet known, Pony's High Commissioner Antoine Douamba told state television. Images showed a large blast site of felled trees and destroyed tin houses. Bodies lay on the ground covered in mats. It was not clear exactly what kind of gold mining went on at the site. Burkina Faso is home to some major gold mines run by international companies, but also hundreds of smaller informal sites that operate without oversight or regulation. Children frequently work in these so-called artisanal mines, and accidents are common. Burkina Faso, one of the world's least developed countries, is under attack from Islamist groups linked to Al-Qaeda and Islamic State, who seek control of mining sites as a means to fund their violent attacks. Monday's blast was hundreds of miles from where these groups usually operate, and there was no sign that Islamist militants were involved. Glenn, silver is indeed more abundant than gold. What was that ratio? 14 to 1?
Something like that.
The ratio is somewhere between 16 and 20 to 1 silver to gold. Silver is usually found as a byproduct in copper mines, zinc mines, lead mines, etc. Though Mexico, for one country, is known for huge deposits of native silver. The problem with Mexican mines right now is that a lot of them have been taken over by the cartels. So yeah, don't invest in Mexican mining companies unless you really, really do your due diligence there, okay? But yes, silver is definitely far more abundant than gold, and it is found as, it's usually mined as a byproduct to something else because of its artificially depressed price. Now, for that information, you might want to look at what's on the whiteboard there. Wall Street Silver also has a Reddit subreddit, and they have a .com. They have regular videos with people like Rick Rule and other people who actually know something about economics, unlike our federal government, that explain the ins and outs of this. But I'm going to pull it up on another screen right now here and see if I can get to debtclock.org, where there is a very depressing debt clock. Because if anybody wants to go over there and take a look at things, you will see that the U.S. national debt clock is a sea of red. Well, that's not the important part, okay? The important part is when you scroll down, you will see in the lower right-hand bottom column, you will see dollar to gold ratio, paper to silver ratio now is standing at 346.35 to 1. That means for every 1 ounce of real physical silver that is out of the ground, there's 346.35 claims on that ounce. So 345 people or so, if they decided to request their physical silver, would be very upset. Because guess what? It ain't there. And at the moment, the paper to gold ratio is 109.47. USDebtClock.org has a wealth of very, very fascinating information. I also ran into a cool chart this week that shows just how badly our fiat is devalued. It shows the ratio between the price of gold and real estate. So you might want to look up the gold to real estate ratio. It was an amazing study, covers 132 years of data. And if you're looking for a whole lot of really interesting infographics to educate your friends with, go to demonocracy.info. Infographics that explain big, very scary ideas in very nice, simple pictures. Wow. Gold stream, a few hundred pounds of lead to get rid of? Yeah, I can see why it would be a pain to find that. Chuck, I don't know how to put links into YouTube because I am like old. Besides, I'm a tinfoil hat goddess. I don't do tech, okay? I do tech.
You have to be a moderator to be able to put it in.
You have to be a moderator, so if we have a moderator on there right now that wants to find the link, it's demonocracy.info. And then the other link would be usdebtclock.org. Now, back to the mining news. As we all know, the price of gold went over $1,900, and it actually stayed there. The price of silver went over $24 for a few days, and last I checked, it was $23.97. So gold price holds near 8-month high as investors monitor Ukraine crisis. You'd think they'd be monitoring the Canadian crisis too. That's very bizarre. Gold prices eased in volatile trade on Monday as doubts over a potential summit between Russian President Vladimir Putin and his U.S. counterpart, Joe Biden, to help resolve the crisis in Ukraine were kept the safe haven metal near an 8-month high. Spot gold held steady at $18.96.86 per ounce by 12:40 Eastern Time, while U.S. gold futures traded at about $18.9850 per ounce in New York. Earlier, bullion fell as much as 0.6% after statements from Washington and the Elysee that both the U.S. and Russia had agreed to the summit proposed by French President Emmanuel Macron. Now, I must say, I know Putin is former KGB, and I know Putin is a commie of a sort, but really, it's almost pathetic to seriously believe that Macron and Biden together actually thought that they could get, that they could, that they were anywhere near equal to dealing with Putin. I mean, that's just ridiculous. Delusions of grandeur, okay? They're legends in their own minds. All these people are. You mine your gold nuggets on eBay, huh? Well, make sure you test them. There are a lot more fakes showing up these days.
For Goldstream, I just want to let you know, the best name I heard for Trudeau this last week was Vladimir Putin. So I hope you enjoyed that one.
Spelled like the
Food.
indescribable, one-of-a-kind food that we all know and love. Oh, poutine is amazing. Okay, poutine is good stuff. Wow. Yeah, the stock market lost touch with reality a long, long time ago. Shawnee, you're going to get zero argument from me. Okay, we all know that things are getting really weird these days. Gold then paired those losses after a Kremlin spokesperson said that while a meeting between Biden and Putin remained possible, no plans were in place. European financial markets tumbled at signs of increased confrontation. Oh, by the way, oil's up to 94 a barrel and climbing, and it's even higher in the EU. After having briefly edged higher on a glimmer of hope that a summit might offer a path out of Europe's biggest military crisis in decades. Recent headlines relating to Ukraine have strongly contributed to gold carrying its earlier losses as risk appetite has slipped once more, Craig Erlem, senior market analyst at Alanda, told Reuters. We're seeing some resistance around 1900, but the way the situation is evolving, that may struggle to hold as the day progresses. Gold has rallied this month as simmering geopolitical tensions between Ukraine and Russia have driven haven demand. Concerns about Moscow's troop buildup near the borders of its smaller neighbors have sparked renewed inflows into gold-backed exchange-traded funds. No. Physical. If you don't hold it, you don't control it. Paper, no good unless you run it up, sell it when it's high, and use that to buy silver and gold. SPDR Gold Trust, the world's largest gold-backed exchange-traded fund, said its holdings rose 5.5% on Friday. Further gold strength cannot be ruled out for now. A move beyond 1900 is likely to be amplified in the short term by momentum buying and fear of missing out trades, UBS Group AG analyst Joni Tevez wrote in a Bloomberg note. Such a move is likely to put the focus next on the 1920 and 1950 areas. The recent geopolitical tensions have outweighed gold's bearish sentiment from the prospect of the U.S. Federal Reserve's first rate rise in March, which could dampen demand for the non-interest-bearing asset by pushing up Treasury yields. Now, on the matter of that rate rise, we're now seeing various banks and pundits and people who might actually know something saying we could get as many as 9 rate hikes. We shall see. I mean, the whole thing is monopoly money anyway, and we all know that. Warning from Canada, financial freedom under attack. As the world nervously awaits the next development in nuclear-armed Russia's standoff with Ukraine, a different headline-grabbing standoff may be even more consequential for investors. Canada's trucker-led Freedom Convoy has been protesting draconian government mandates and restrictions. In response, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's government has decided to get even more draconian. Last week, Trudeau invoked emergency powers to target the finances of the truckers and their backers. In an unprecedented move, sidestepping normal due process guarantees, Trudeau ordered banks, insurance companies, and cryptocurrency exchanges to close the accounts of anyone deemed to be involved in the Freedom Convoy. Similar trucker-led protests are scheduled to begin this week in Washington, D.C. ahead of Joe Biden's March 1st State of the Union address, latest ever, by the way. In response, the administration has ordered security fencing to be installed around the Capitol building. Again! Wow. I wonder why. The last time there were more feds there than there were people. Will Canadian-style assaults on financial freedom soon follow? Silver guru David Morgan believes so. In a video posted over the weekend, he said what Canada is doing is really a precursor for what the global elite is planning to do planet-wide. Enter Klaus Schwab into the picture. Klaus Schwab of the World Economic Forum has openly bragged that Trudeau's government is filled with supporters of the globalist body's Great Reset agenda. It is. They're all listed on his website. Moreover, Biden's Build Back Better agenda also comes straight out of the playbook of the World Economic Forum. It does. One of their major objectives is to move forward a global digital currency regime, which will make it easier for governments to tax, confiscate, and redistribute wealth. Driving out physical cash from the economy will also enable banks to amass more control over financial transactions and possibly puts customers at greater risk of being shut out of the economy or forced into the economy. David Morgan warns the next financial crisis will bring bank bail-ins, whereby some of the assets of depositors are claimed by banks to prevent cascading failures. Given the growing risk to wealth holders, sound asset protection strategies are a must. Accounts held at banks and other financial institutions are vulnerable to being restricted or canceled for any number of arbitrary reasons. This is true. Even cryptocurrency wallets can be seized by governments, with Canada showing the way. That is a really nuanced situation, but what you have to look at is if you trade through a centralized trading exchange like Coinbase, for instance, or one of the other similar apps with your crypto, there's no reason why the government has to allow those to remain legal or even operate. Just something to think about here. Interestingly, though, the Trudeau regime hasn't tried to seize physical precious metals from the enemies of the state yet. It's just not practical for a government to try to find out who owns gold and silver coins and where they might be kept. Easy thing to do if you order online with credit cards. This is why local coin shops are a good thing. Just ask the goddess. It's far more efficient to seize assets that are held digitally or in financial institutions. Gold and silver bullion should never be held via an account at a bank or brokerage firm. Bank-safe deposit boxes are also poor options for storing precious metals. Many banks expressly prohibit gold or cash content. Yes, it's illegal. In order for a precious metals holding to fully protect against political and financial threats, it should be physically segregated from the financial system. That means your bullion should be stored in a secure hiding place at home or through a private vault service such as Muddy Metals Depository or Kinesis, for instance. Kinesis has vaults all over the place. Okay. What you're looking for in a vault is 24/7 security, fully segregated, fully non-commingled, so that you can make an appointment and you can view your bullion and your stuff anytime you want. They will bring it out and they will unpack it on camera for you and do a full inventory. And they should be insured by Lloyd's of London, okay, or another decent insurance company. So with the way the British have been acting, I gotta wonder about that. Money Metals Depository uses top-of-the-line UL Class 3 vaults for maximum security. Yeah, that is another thing to look for. On the matter of holding, it is very, very important. If you do not want a government to know that you have something, that you actually use the little pieces of paper with the dead people on them, and you go to a local store with those pieces of paper, because those pieces of paper are a whole lot harder to trace than credit card transactions, debit card transactions, electronic funds transfers, even cryptocurrencies. Okay, so just a thought there, that if you actually want things to be private, the only way things are usually private is if you use fiat or you use real money. From here in and now and forever, the little pieces of paper with the dead people on them are fiat. They're not money, okay? They have never been money. They will never be money because our government is killing them, but that's another story. On the matter of that other story. So, at the moment, we're looking at a potential 9 hikes. I'm pretty much doubting more than 3 will happen, because at this point they're going to have a very, very, very difficult time raising those interest rates without bursting the bubble that they have created. And it's a very, very big bubble that covers multiple sectors here. But the things that are of interest right now, we had another refinery fire in Louisiana. A major refinery went poof. Bear in mind, it's not like we have that many refineries operating these days, because even though the court told the Malarkey administration that they had to roll on with the oil and gas leases, they fiddled and farted around and let those leases expire, and now they're refusing to renew them. And there are still a lot of refineries that were never brought back online after various hurricanes in the past, and then the Great Freeze in Texas last year wrecked a whole lot more stuff, and now we've had another refinery fire. So to date, in the last, I think it's 5 or 6 months, we've had 2 or 3 fertilizer plant fires, which are really bad news, and a refinery fire or 2. And there was that act of eco-terrorism against a pipeline of some kind up in another part of Canada the other day that was entirely ignored, British Columbia, by the government in any way, shape, or form. Apparently, it's all right to blow things up and cause millions of dollars in damage, but that's not terrorism. Just, that is peaceful political protest of some kind or another. I can't figure it out. And yes, Roberts, that is a cool video too. That music video has been all over the place. Yep, natural gas. Thank you, Goldstream. I couldn't remember exactly what kind of utility it was, but yeah, they attacked a natural gas pipeline up there. Of course, that was a mostly peaceful attack of some kind. That is perfectly acceptable and legal. At any rate, if oil prices continue to go up, and I suspect they will, since Saudi Arabia told Joe Biden again when he asked them to please put more oil on the market at a decent price, they told them to pound sand. Not that I blame them. If oil prices continue to rise the way they are, and gas prices continue to go up with them, we're going to have a pretty damn serious problem, not just in the energy sector. As it is, we have upwards of a dozen countries now that are not exporting and have banned all export of chemical feedstocks for fertilizer. Yeah. And we also have a shortage of seeds, not just on the consumer level with your package of tomato seeds. By the way, watch for shrinkflation, because a lot of the seed packets for home use now are containing 10 to 20% less than they used to. Just no idea how this happens. but we also have a shortage of seed for Roundup Ready soybeans and corn and alfalfa and wheat and a whole bunch of other things. And with a shortage of fertilizer and a shortage of seed, and the fact that the futures prices on these products are rising at less than half the rate the production cost is rising on these products, it's a pretty fair bet that this year's plowing and planting is going to be a lot lighter than we would like, which is not good, of course. And yes, I know our government, let me put it this way. Goldstream, I have a deep and abiding contempt for the federal government, okay? The federal government stopped having any, even slight interest in serving the interests of the people and our northern neighbors and even our southern neighbors properly. I don't know, over 100 years ago. So, you know, it does not surprise. Yes, we do, blind dude. We definitely do. Yeah, Chuck. The elephant in the closet is actually a very large panda. The Panda Patrol, though, is having a lot of problems because this past week, a couple of their real estate consortiums put out the unhappy news that they would be unable to meet their debt. And the market for those particular real estate consortiums as a whole dropped about 40%. A lot of people are very upset because they're discovering the very expensive properties they invested in various places are ghost cities that are falling apart and are already being torn down. Things are not going well in Pandaland. The problem with Pandaland is, unlike the rest of the world, if I want to find out what's going on in Russia, I can very easily find out what's going on in Russia. It's not hard to look at anything on Russian social media or Russian internet. Finding out stuff that's going on in Pandaland is a little bit more difficult. It can be very secret. That's the way they are. Yeah, I know. I heard about the Line 5 over there in Michigan. That's Michigan for you. They're also shutting down mining there. And yes, Jeff, we have a t-shirt that matches that sentiment. There is a t-shirt in the house on that issue. Chris, I have not seen that one yet. What the problem our planters are having here on the massive scale, on the commercial and production scale, is when they can find the seed at all, it's triple the cost, and they're getting no guarantees they will get their shipment of alfalfa seed, for instance, in time for first planting, because it's kind of sort of missing, you know. Yeah, True Leaf Market has really good seeds. I agree, blind dude. No argument from me. But at any rate, there's a lot of interesting and bizarre and ridiculous things going on in our economic world, as we all know. And in that note, Bear, do you have those so we can show these people that pretty thing we got from Nevada? We didn't show them what we got from Nevada, now did we? This is something that our state legislature, a few little politicians here, are looking at doing for the great state of Montana. The great state of Nevada has produced a very, very pretty piece of currency. Well, actually, it's a very, very pretty piece of money. It just happens not to be constitutional money. It is for intrastate commerce. Just buy and sell in Nevada. Utah and a few other states, in addition to many of our states taking the taxes off silver and gold purchases this year, quite a few of our states are looking at putting some of their treasuries into gold and silver, physical gold and silver, as a hedge against all this inflation and other disgusting nonsense that's going on. And a couple of them are looking at minting rounds or making Goldbacks that they can use for commerce within the state. This is the Montana Goldback.
Montana?
A Nevada Goldback. I wish we had them here. This is a $1 one. And because it's got 1 ounce, 1,000th of an ounce of gold in it, right now that's worth $1.80, $1.90. And there's a $5 one. They go in denominations up to 100, and they're really, really cool and pretty looking, you know? I mean, that's just, and I do agree, Bob, I just don't know how we can do it. And yes, Chris, the supply chain is broken worldwide. Okay? Yeah, just go ahead and destroy my ears, okay? I see how you are, you horrible person. The supply chain is now pretty darn close to the point of no return, which is a really, really scary idea. This is one of the reasons that shrinkflation is happening. Because one of the ways you can make less stuff go further is to shrink the size of your package. You keep the package itself the same, but for instance, I saw a picture the other day. Apparently, Costco paper towels, the huge packages, now have like 140 or instead of 160 sheets. Toilet paper. Some brands of toilet paper are 15% smaller than they were last year, even though they don't look it. Okay? The same thing is happening in cereal, tuna fish, etc. But it's happening someplace else. I have it absolutely confirmed now that aluminum cans are lighter. Please don't break them, because if you drop them, they are now about 30% more likely to explode upon impact. I know. This happened to me in a store. It's not fun. And I have reason to suspect that commercial food steel cans have also gotten thinner, because more and more people are beginning to report having problems opening their tin cans. The tin cans are not opening properly. We shall see. I have to find one of our old pre-pandemic cans, open it, dump it, and weigh it, and then open a new one, dump it, and weigh it. But I am curious about that, because we're seeing thinner cardboard, we're seeing thinner plastic, we're seeing smaller quantities inside the same size box so that they can move more boxes onto the shelf using less product. There's a lot of that going around. And we were discussing earlier the fact that economies of efficiency should be impacting the consumer price index, and apparently they aren't. Because every year, or every 5-10 years, whatever, as technology advances and you can make things cheaper and faster, so you can make 20% more of something in the same period of time for the same cost or less, you have an economy of efficiency going on. And that should be a downward pressure on the consumer price index. And it has not been. It has not been ever. And it's rather interesting that that is one of the many other things left out of the CPI. Yeah, well, you know, I mean, after they redid the entire formula, so it's now all based on lockdown, we can't trust that anymore anyway. And if any of you did trust it any time since about 1971, when a certain Nixon temporarily decoupled gold from the fiat, then you really need to re-examine your thought process.
2 weeks to flatten the dollar.
Yeah, 2 weeks to flatten the dollar, basically. Gold price will power to 7,400. We are now getting the gold bugs coming out of the woodwork, though we have had a few silver bugs coming out of the woodwork and yelling that there will be $1,000 silver next Tuesday. I don't believe next Tuesday, but at some point, yes. Gold price will power to 7,400. Rally is far from over as the perfect storm brews. While geopolitical tensions may provide a short-lived rally in safe haven assets like gold, there's no denying the metal is still in a long-term technical bull cycle that mirrors the beginning of 2008, said Chris Vermeulen, Chief Market Strategist of TechnicalTraders.com. Vermeulen told David Lynn, author for Kicktoe News, that gold is set to hit 2,700 an ounce in 1 year and up to 7,400 in 5 years. They never ever say anything nice about silver at Kicktoe. I wonder why that is. I think we're coming into a pretty major super cycle in precious metals. I think we started back in 2019, and this is about a 5-year cycle for gold, and it's been a very tough year for equities. We've had a very long haul bull market, and I think things are getting a little long in the tooth in terms of the equity side. When the stock market gets to the late stages, this is where we see commodities come to life. Vermeulen added this year commodities and gold miners are set to outperform the broad equity index. We need to see how this market sells off, Vermeulen said, referring to a scenario in which equities decline. If it goes into a sell-off like we saw in 2020, where it's a panic phase and goes straight down, it's going to pull gold, it's going to pull miners down as well. They'll probably hold up the best and do okay compared to other indices, but they'll probably get sold off. Now, if the market chops sideways, a kind of slow grind lower or something like that, that's the perfect scenario for precious metals. While the dollar index has traditionally held an inverse correlation to gold, in the last 3 weeks, the DXY has rallied concurrently with the metal. Vermeulen sees the trend continuing. I wonder why that would be. We can still see the dollar and precious metals rallying together. They're both seen to be a very defensive play, a kind of global asset. Mind you, this is in a time when the whole rest of the world has drastically decreased their purchases of U.S. treasuries and are drastically building up their reserves. India, by the way, is drastically building up their silver reserves. Russia keeps a significant amount of their reserves in gold. China the same way. And the amount of treasuries they're buying is going lower and lower and lower. Okay, and these yo-yos are saying that the dollar is dependable. Yeah. When people get nervous, doesn't matter where they are in the world, they'll liquidate and they tend to move to the US dollar. It's only because it's tied to the petrodollar, and that can change any time. We've seen this happen all the time, he said, citing the great financial crisis of 2008 as an example. Now, what do you really think about the great financial crisis that they are referring to? It is very, very interesting because that crisis did not exactly spring full-blown from the brow of Zeus or something, okay? This was not some random thing. That crisis was directly caused by multiple years of dumb government policies because our federal government does not like us. Yeah, shocking, isn't it, since we purportedly elected them. If you believe that, well, I have some oceanfront property to sell you in Arizona, and that is the one time I will tell you that Arizona is absolutely wonderful, amazing, and fantastic, and really doesn't suck rocks at all. Yeah. Because, reasons. As we all know. But at any rate, that is a sample of the typical stuff off of Kicktoe this week. I will say that Kicktoe should be taken with a grain of salt because they often have some interesting controlled opposition wandering around over there. I'm trying to decide just where they sit in the gold, silver, precious metals versus fiat universe. Haven't quite made up my mind on that one. Oh, and if anybody wants to see all kinds of stuff that we really can't talk about on YouTube, go on over to Zero Hedge and Seeking Alpha. Zero Hedge and Seeking Alpha are talking about all kinds of bizarre things. Well, Goldstream, yeah, the desert's better and it's much easier to prospect. It's dry as bones, it's full of disgusting cactus, and they have tarantulas, okay? Scorpions are great. I have no problem with scorpions. They have tarantulas. They have cactus. They have caliche. And if you have never tried to dig through caliche, I can assure you that it is probably easier to get through bull quartz, dead white, statue grade bull quartz than it is to get through caliche. Okay? That stuff is horrible. You know? Yeah. And at any rate, we have some very interesting times coming up next week. If you are not already quietly getting miscellaneous money that is currently called zeros and ones in your bank account, that imaginary stuff turned into pieces of paper with dead people on it, that would be a good idea because, by the way, as of 2020, banks, FDIC insured banks, no longer have a requirement to hold any cash reserves. Think about that for a minute. This is why there can't really be a run on the bank because they don't have to hold money anymore. And wait until you find out what happens when you try to close an account. Things are getting really hairy in that regard, I can tell you that. But, you know, if you've got a whole bunch of zeros and ones around that are pretending to be money, this would be a good time to turn some of them into pieces of paper with dead people on them that are also pretending to be money, and wander on down to your local coin shop and talk to them about actual money, as in pre-1964 constitutional coinage, or the silver coinage of your particular realm, wherever you happen to live, that is the legal tender for your country and is actually money, and bring it home. And then, well, be sure when you bring it home that you bring it home by the water route so that when your boat springs a link and it's accidentally lost, we can all have a moment of silence, you know, because it's funny how that happens, but it's just, it's tragic, it really is. And this is also, of course, a good time to continue stocking up on food. It is also a good time, if you happen to have a regular inkjet printer like ours, to turn that printer, make it go away, and replace it with a laser printer because, funnily enough, the price of ink cartridges is continuing to go up almost as fast as our real inflation index is going up, and almost as fast as grain futures are going up. But the same is not happening in the price of toner cartridges. And the brother toner, the brother laser printers that are like $300 are actually still around. This is a rather fascinating phenomenon. And one of those cartridges, by the way, does about 5,000 sheets of paper. And they don't go bad. So, you know, just something to think about. Well, always assuming you can find paper. But, well, we won't go into that because we all know that there is nothing wrong with the supply chain. And that these shortages we're seeing are a sign from the great and powerful that we should embrace minimalism and a monastic lifestyle that includes cold showers and eating crickets. And if we do so, and we all try really, really hard, by the year 2030, we will own nothing, have no privacy, and we will be happy. Okay.
Brutalized.
What? Where? Who got brutalized?
I'm beating on Keith. I tried to knock him off his feet.
Oh.
That's her job.
As some of the comments, and as Eva brought up, and I seen a few comments on looking for silver mines, and mainly your native silver mines are Mexico. Most of your silver mines, like up here in Montana, are VMS deposits, which would be the same with British Columbia and that way. Nevada.
What's the VMS deposit?
a volcanic massive sulfide deposit. So if you're going to go hunt silver, that's the kind of deposit that you're looking for. The problem we have here in the United States is basically no smelters operating, and that type of a deposit, for the most part, being it's a lead, zinc, and silver deposit, basically, requires a smelter for the efficiency of creating the silver and the lead and the zinc. So that in itself is a problem. Yeah, Galena, and Galena will kind of fall into this same thing, Goldstream. Usually that's a VMS deposit, lead, zinc, silver, lead, silver. We've got quite a bit of Galena north of right here where we're at. And the thing is it smelts easy. That's the best way to get that out of the rock. And without smelters running, you got a problem. I seen another note there. Somebody had mentioned Gold Hog's videos. Absolutely great videos, guys. If you want to look at some good testing videos, I would highly recommend them. Don down there does one hell of a good job with his videos. Really gets specific in different mattings and systems in sluice boxes. Very worth, much worth the time to watch his videos. And he's made them for, I don't know, the last 5 years or so. Yeah, Goldstream, I know there's one smelter up there, and I believe in St. George, Utah, they still have one smelter running, but that's been basically the problem of running for that type of deposits at this point, is the lack of a way to capitalize on those deposits. So I just thought I'd bring that up, being it came up in the comments and everybody was talking about it a little bit. If we can point you in the right direction as far as deposits or what you're looking at. A lot of times the VMS deposits you'll find within like a 3-mile circle of a good gold area, possibly a 7-mile circle. You start kind of building out from a good gold area, and a lot of times you'll get into the other types of deposits. Could be copper and silver, copper, gold, and silver. But if you focus on the known areas of gold, you can build out from that area on the terrain and possibly identify something that maybe was found once, or some mines that could definitely be brought back into production. But at this point, nobody's paying that much attention to those mines. You're short of some big mining companies. You're kind of looking a little more regional than just one specific mine. Depth matters a lot in that type of deposit. All right, then I thought I'd go into the economy of scale on a placer operation, just to give you guys some concepts to think about when you're out there high banking or panning. If you start testing ground that's coming out to, a third of a gram a yard, let's just say, about $20 a yard, which that third of a gram of gold is not very much gold from a whole yard of dirt. If you're running a high banker and it's taking you 4 hours to do that yard of dirt, you're working for $5 an hour. If you can get to where a small wash plant or a big high banker, you could start to get into doing that 1 yard of dirt in 1 hour. Now you're, at 20 grand. Yeah, we're talking, I don't even know if I can hold that up to a camera. That is so small. How would you do that? Put it in that. Put it in that and put it up at that camera. That's a $20 worth of gold, guys. One piece, basically. So if you're finding that in a yard, I'm going to just bring this forward. If you can do that in 1 hour, you're basically at $20 an hour. If you take it, that same material and run it at 2 yards per hour in a slightly bigger operation, now you're at $40 an hour. If you step it up to a wash plant that'll do 10 yards an hour, now you're running $200 an hour on your operation. And if you jump up to the next level, basically, is looking at something in that 40 yard an hour neighborhood, that little bit of gold could start to yield you $800 an hour in that operation. So, and right now, a gram is probably actually $64. So this would actually be a little stronger than the $20 based on, if you count today's numbers.
About 50 buckets in a yard.
Exactly, Goldstream. But see, a lot of these guys go out and they find one little piece of gold and they shoveled and worked all day and don't realize that if they started calculating, look at the amount of gravel that's on that site, or dig some more test holes to verify. If you can start to get up to that, 40, 50 yard an hour area, it can turn into quite an event. When you start looking at, $500, $800 an hour in operation, your costs of a 40 yard operation are going to be, I don't know, $20 worth of diesel fuel and 5 gallons of gasoline to run the pump per day or something. It's not your costs. You'll definitely by the time you get to 40 yards per hour with the gold price we have right now and with the diesel price where it's at, you could run a pretty efficient operation, 1 or 2 man operation and make money if you've got the ground. You need the gravels. That's why we push the, testing. Yeah, you need water, but most places, especially outside of the desert, water isn't the issue. It's usually more depth or the size of the rock you're dealing with, or there's other issues.
I'm from the desert.
Well, I know. I get that. And there's some guys on here that are in the desert as well. That can be an
That's
issue.
why it always goes to my brain.
Yeah. But, recovery and efficiency can definitely play a role in creating a system that's going to make you some money. Yeah, Roberts, that's about right. But, around 45 5-gallon pails is about a yard.
Is their struck level, maybe?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I can't pick one of those up.
Well, that's what you do is you bring them over by half and just fill the ones that you have next to the wash plant or whatever. Equipment costs, John, in a 40 yard per hour operation. Depending on the wash plant, I guess, by the time you look at wash plant, a pump, an excavator, and let's just say a payloader, a used payloader, you're probably looking at spending about $150,000. You can pick up a fairly inexpensive, excavator, tractor, backhoe, loader, and a wash plant. That'll do that. And then you always want to have some extra money just for operational costs till you get to where you've got enough gold to sell. That's always a consideration in figuring out a mine. Yeah, and it doesn't matter. I mean, all I'm doing is trying to show that little bit of gold in that 1 yard of dirt may mean you're onto something. You could definitely be onto a bigger adventure in the future if you pay attention and, find ground that's worth claiming. If it's, better than 1/3 of a gram per yard, you might be onto something. And that's kind of why I brought this up. Oh, yeah. Yeah. One gram per yard, 100 yards a day with a couple people. That'd be a nice little operation, really. That's basically, you're looking at what, $62 a yard.
Yeah.
I mean, that could turn into some pretty darn good money every day.
$6 grand a day.
There's, 62 bucks a yard. I'd take that any day.
Yeah.
That'd actually be a lot of fun to run something that can, consistent at that. Well, definitely, and that's something that even if you do get into a mining operation, you always kind of want to be looking at what's the next project. I made that mistake kind of. I wasn't looking for that next project soon enough. And then you get a delay in there of permitting problems and other issues. COVID, well, yeah, COVID did not help. That really turned this last 2 seasons into a mess. But I just thought I would touch on, the economy scale, because if you really want to get to where you're making money, you're going to want to be in this 40 yard per hour area to really actually walk in, mine for, the summer months or whatever, and then pull out. You got to override the cost of equipment and make it worth being on the site. But, if you start getting into some ground, and we had a lot of ground that would go $35, $40 a yard, that changes these numbers quite a bit. When you jump from 20 to, you double that, you start doubling these numbers. But I just thought I'd get into that just a little bit tonight.
Oh, you write better than I do.
I wasn't in a hurry or
I have penmanship every day.
Oh.
Any other questions, guys? Or comments or next direction?
Okay, man. We've run out of topic. Somebody's going to throw in a hand grenade, man.
Yeah, oh yeah. Come on.
Now, my guess would be, in the explosion they're talking about, somebody was stealing explosives from one of the mines or whatever, and they were using it in artisanal stuff, and then somebody had the equivalent of a case of dynamite or whatever blow up.
And that makes a case of dynamite makes one hell of a loud boom.
Yeah, I don't know, but that would be my guess.
Well, that's kind of the way that article looked. They said it was a mine that uses a lot of chemicals and explosives, so somebody made a mistake there somehow.
It's amazing. Sometimes people will make some pretty dumbass mistakes. I still like that MSHA fatalogram. I saw that one time that 2 miners were fatally injured when the explosives underneath the bench they were welding on detonated. Wow, what could have happened there?
Yeah, gee, whose bright idea was that one?
I think one of the dead guys.
Yeah.
Just guessing.
Oh, I think, John, that's probably a definite that this political environment has tried to push out all the small guys. Over my life, I've watched small meat markets go out and the small stores go out, and the only thing left is corporate this or corporate that.
Yeah, permitting on a dredging operation would probably be a pain in many states.
Well, California, the good states made it damn near impossible.
Yeah. Have you heard of a place called Alaska, John?
Yeah, or the Yukon. Well, some of that's all claimed up now, though, too.
Well, you just need to weigh one bucket and then do your multiplication.
Yeah, just use math to your advantage, blind dude, instead of trying to get 40 buckets worth.
Well, I mean,
although it's nice to do 1 yard just to see what your dollar costing, your averaging is coming out at.
Yeah, the greening is not going to go very well, I don't think. And Gulfstream, it's not that the mining companies don't attract attention, it's that the media won't give them a fair shake. you know. And yeah, politics follows the media.
Yeah, pretty
The
bad.
media follows the educational system, and the liberals infiltrated the educational system in the 70s, 60s, and 70s. Okay, communists.
Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty much. I would agree with
Is there a
that.
difference now?
Look up the
No, it's
naked
easy, it's
communist. The 35 points of communism.
Yeah, you pretty much can figure it out from there.
Yeah, it really hasn't been a big secret. You said 10, 6, and 1%. That's the weight of gold per dry resin weight? Yes, that is correct.
As a percentage.
Didn't you say the pregnant solution lost 93% in the first bottle? Initially it did. As
You
you
wiped it out. Yeah.
As that resin gets loaded, the efficiency goes down. And by the time it was finally at that 10% loading factor, it was only getting a few percent recovery in that stage. So as as one goes up and as your loading goes up, your recovery goes down. I found, looking at my notes and everything, that basically once your output from the cartridge is over half of the input, then you're probably pretty darn well loaded and you might as well switch it out. That's kind of a thing. Yeah, Shiny, that's why I gave you my email.
Yep.
Just send me an email and we'll arrange things. Okay? I don't really like to give out my mailing address too much. You know.
Same thing here, Goldstream. We got the same educational system of,
Yeah.
Universities that you've got. It's turned into communist central.
Oh, good grief.
What?
Now the leader of Canada's new Democrat Party is calling for the Canadians to go to war in Ukraine. Canada must guard the safety, security, and sovereignty of the Ukrainian people.
How about the Canadian people?
That's like asking the U.S. government to guard our border
Yeah.
down south.
Yeah, they will when the Canadians start flooding south.
People have been talking about that. As a matter of fact, on Barnes and Viva last night, they were saying
We'll have to guard the
the
border.
problem with the Canadians, if they want to, get asylum in the United States,
Goldstream, it's already a joke.
is they need to have a COVID test to get across the Canadian border. So he says, what to do is fly to Mexico and then sneak across the Mexican border, because then you don't need a COVID test.
Yeah, you can come in for free. They might even give you a house and money.
If you can speak Spanish, you're in like fun.
I know
man.
you get a driver when you get across the border.
I suppose if you got across the northern border and you could speak Spanish, get yourself a little tan, speak Spanish, and then say, well, I snuck in across the southern border 6 months ago.
That's what he's worried about, John, is boxes that you can't identify where they came from.
Yeah. In case you really want to, if you can just contact me at this email, and I can give you my my post office box there. Absolutely, not a problem, John.
Oh, Goldstream, you could come down for the summer if you can get out of Canada.
Yeah, you can come right to Sweetwater.
I'm sure we could go find some placer to play
I'll
in.
tell you what, it wouldn't be too hard to come through there when they got to block the road with the truck even accidentally driving into Canada.
Yeah, you can come right through Sweetwater.
Yeah. I imagine that. I don't know. Was there a fence that we were going parallel to?
Yeah, there was a fence we were going parallel
What
to
was
for a
it?
while.
3 strands of barbed wire?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah,
Anything.
there was part of it. that
It
was
hasn't been a
chain
real important border.
Not-
sort of.
Not when we were up on top of the hill, I don't think.
link. Nah,
Yeah,
that was barbed wire.
yeah. I say if you can walk about a quarter mile to just get over the brow of the hill there, just zip through a 3-strand barbed wire fence, piece of cake. Anyhow,
How much you want to bet they'd have a fit because it's the wrong border.
Yo hablo español. Hey, Pedro, ¿cómo estás? Hey, hombre. But then he left the guys up there on that border don't know how to speak Spanish anyway. They couldn't tell the difference. Goldstream, do you care?
Yeah, you might not want to go back there. I don't know.
It might be better here at the moment by the time you get here. Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen up there. It could get very interesting. There was a video today I saw where some guy was asking all the truck drivers to basically just park their trucks until
I think that's the best thing. to do.
Trudeau's
Just-
gone.
Just make a strike out of it and say, nah, we're good.
I got COVID. Sorry, can't
Yep.
go to work today.
And I'm hoping that's what they do here. Is just don't even get in the argument with them. Just shut it down.
Well, the problem is with such a badly screwed up supply chain, that's going to cause a lot of problems, which they're going to blame on us.
Well, yeah, they
So
will,
to
but okay, fix it.
So they're now blaming
You know.
inflation on Russia.
Yeah, that was a funny
I
one.
figured they'd blame our economic collapse this week on Russia. I really did, and they might anyway. No, I've seen that, John, and if you think you're going to come out this way or something, we sure could talk and figure something out.
Yeah, we could do something. Whether or not I can take you to Montana Bee or not, it's probably a little bit of a not secure situation, but
Yeah.
confidential. But there's other stuff.
There's a
around
lot
here.
of stuff here to go play in, though.
Yeah, but do they care, Goldstream? I snuck into the United States across the Tecate border, and nobody cared. I mean, we got caught on the wrong side of the border after they closed the thing. We walked around, wasn't 50 feet from the gate. There was kind of like a little outbuilding or something, and there was another building. There was this little gap between them. Fence was cut through.
Yeah.
We didn't even.
You weren't the first.
We didn't even touch the fence. We just stepped across, came through. As we come out between those two buildings, there's a Border Patrol vehicle parked looking straight at us. We just walked over to our car, got in it, and drove up. They didn't even bother to drive over and ask us anything. And it's like, we know what happened to those guys.
They didn't care.
Yep.
But that wasn't at a time like we've got now, where they're coming by the hundreds of thousands.
There was a couple of Border Patrol checkpoint stories here. One, some guy did a video where he pulled up at the Border Patrol's checkpoint, and the Border Patrol guys asked him, you an American citizen? He said, does it matter? And the guy goes, I guess not. Go ahead.
Bye. Have a good evening.
And then one time we were coming through the Amato checkpoint. It was me and Eva, and we had Joachim. Did we have Haley with us at that time?
I don't think so.
I don't know. I think it was just the two of us and Joachim, who's from Sweden.
Yeah.
And we come through and say, everybody American citizen. And, no, we got a Swede in the back. He goes, really? And Joachim's handing him his passport, and he goes, hey guys, check this one out.
That guy from Sweden.
That was hilarious. Yeah, he that was pretty funny. The guy was really quite enthusiastic. Swedish passport. They want to see a Swedish passport.
And they had one of those.
Yeah, it's a very sad joke, but it is a joke down there. Yep. Oh. Anyway, let's see. Actually, the resin color, there should be a sack right in there with
Yep.
tube.
It's right there.
Okay.
It darkens, but that isn't the actual indicator.
Yeah, you
really.
can't tell how much. Let's see.
Keith was having the testing done in between those filter cartridges.
There you go. That's a better. Let's see, that's kind of red there. And that's theoretically loaded at about 10% gold there. Okay. And the problem is all the partially loaded resin looks dark also. And so it becomes it's not a good indication of just how loaded it is. That's one of the problems with it. We have worked out a test that seems to work reasonably well down to 3 parts per million or something. I will now read you the entire test procedure we have come up with. Take 1/4 milliliter of Eco Goldback solution and place it in a well on the spot plate. There should be a spot plate in that bucket too. Add 1 drop of KB3 indicator solution to the well. Let the well dry up. A draft will speed the process. Mild heat is acceptable. It may be in a plastic or a paper folder or something. There should be. Compare the color in the well to the reference colors to get an approximate gold concentration. Now that, I've got a spot plate. I'm going to try taking a picture of it. I may coat it with like a varnish or something. No spot plate, no spot plate. Anyhow, in the videos is that white plate with a bunch of little wells in it, ceramic plate. And I've got one where I use different concentrations in order to, get a good idea. Well, that is, I may actually just spray some varnish on it or something. And I'll try taking the picture also and see if I can get a picture where the color density is precise enough.
Yeah.
But I don't know about that. We'll see what happens. When the output concentration of a resin stage is half the concentration of the input solution or greater, the resin is adequately loaded. In other words, if it's only recovering half of the stuff going through it, it's getting close to loaded right now. And it'll drop off real fast after that. Note, and this is an important one for everyone out there, stannous chloride solution will work as an indicator, but is slower and has a less pronounced result. So with our particular solution using Eco Goldex, the lower detection limit is like 3 parts per million or something like that. Good night, Shiny. And
Yeah, good night, Shiny.
with the stannous chloride, it'd probably be more like 4 or 5 parts per million, something like that. What type of resin do I use? It is Max Water 104133. What we're using right now. What?
Kepler reports second highest silver reserves in company history. It clocked in 200 million ounces of proven and probable reserves at their location.
That's Max Water, MAXWATER 104133. It's a strong base anion resin. And this is particularly used for nitrate removal or something like that for water. And of course, Chris describes it in much more technical detail.
Yeah. Right there, guys.
And using it in these cartridges for standard water filter, 10-inch long cartridge water filter thing. Does this resin have other uses? Yes, it's a water treatment resin. It's an ion exchange water treatment resin. And I'll say that's why it says for nitrates, to pull nitrates out of your drinking water, basically. That's what this particular one. Now, there's other resins that should work. As a matter of fact, I got 2 from Purolite that I have yet to test. This is the Puromet. And this one is the Puro Gold. And I will be testing both of these in the next month or so sometime with the bottle roll.
Pure gold.
It is very similar to water softener resins, but they have specific characteristics
They're more like the commercial resins they're using, John, for specific reasons.
and the water softener resin you have. I don't know, Chris, would that likely work? I would think that probably not very well. In water treatment, it's used for tannin and nitrate removal. Yeah, it's slightly different. It looks very similar visually, but it's on the molecular level. It's significantly different. It probably wasn't an ion exchange resin. Yeah. Yeah, they try and have different resins optimized for different complexes. That's why I have the two, the Puromet and the Puro Gold. The gold is supposed to be optimized for gold, and in this case from a basic solution as opposed to an acid solution. The guy sent me 2 samples before that didn't work too well, and then I gave him the results and he checked and he goes, oh, those are for acid thiourea solutions, not basic thiosulfate solutions. Okay, send me the other stuff and I'll test it. It doesn't cost much to test. I simply take, I think it's a liter of solution, although I'd have to look at my lab notes, and put in like half a gram of resin in one of my bottles for the bottle roll and roll it for 24 hours and then take a sample. And then just take the sample to the lab, and I think the price just went up a little bit. I think it's $27 now instead of $25.
Still,
And
as long as you're getting the gold, that's not a big increase there.
Yeah, I don't need to have a head sample because, like a smart person, I'm good at imitating things at times. I actually made sure I had actually 2 buckets of clean and well blended pregnant solution by the time I was done out there for the fall. And so I'm just using there's a bucket right there, and I just take some of that out of there. And that's a good idea, folks. If you're going to be doing a lot of different kind of tests on your ore or whatever, make a big sample and blend it really thoroughly. And that way you don't have to assay a head grade for every test.
Right.
Well, the reason the resin itself isn't going to cause that problem is because as the here's an actual cartridge that's loaded here. As the water comes into and leaves the cartridge, we're sampling the input and the output. And what that means is that whatever the difference is times the volume is how much gold got absorbed in here without actually having to test the resin itself. One of the variables Chris pointed out early was the exact volume is not precisely known, so that adds a variable in there, an uncertainty. But it should be within 10%. When my results were off by 50%, I knew I was making a mistake somewhere. Something is going horribly awry. And whenever you get that bad, creepy feeling on the back of your neck that something isn't going right, don't ignore it. Track it down. Figure out what the hell is going wrong before you spend a lot of money doing the wrong thing. I just recycle it, John. That's how I take unpregnant pregnant and back and forth again. Yep. It is possible, Bob, but I think it's more like a sodium chlorate or something like that. You can create a chemical environment that will drive the gold off of the resin. You may have to use heat or things like that too, depending on exactly what's on the resin and what you're trying to. The phrase is elute, to take the material off of the adsorbent, not ab, but add with a D. This stuff adsorbent, it sticks to it. It doesn't soak into it. To get it to come off of the adsorbent, you're creating an environment that will kick it back out. In a water softener, which is primarily designed to absorb calcium ions, the sodium ions in salt will drive it off. And that is the exact same type of process you can do in these ion exchange resins, but it can be a little bit more complicated. And then you still got to get it out of the, call it the rinse. So you still got to like electroplate it or precipitate it or do something else. You wind up with multiple stages. Initially in this smelting process, we were hoping to have a single stage process where we wound up with just a little bead of gold at the bottom. It got got it, Jeff. Yeah, Eva's son is overseas too. He's not in the same area, but you never know where they're going to move people around. I'm kind of presuming that he's probably not going to be deployed to this until it blows up, unless it blows up, because we got other troops that are more specifically tailored and tasked with that sort of quick reaction. So that's it. We shall see. But anyhow, as I say, we were hoping to just do it in a single process. The resin itself is about $13 a pound, and the loaded resin here is running, well, let's see. Yeah, 12 ounces. Okay, so that 1.2. The 12 troy ounces per pound would be 1.2 troy ounces times $1,900. So this resin theoretically has about $2,200 of gold per pound of resin right now, and it costs us $13 per pound. Sacrificing the resin is not a major sacrifice. If we can do it simpler, cheaply, if we can do it cheaply, we're in good shape. If we can do it simpler, cheaper, or more efficiently by just burning it, that's fine. If we can't do it by furnacing it, then we can do using elution to some extent. You know, I don't know what the efficiency is, the cost, the complexity, all that other stuff, because we haven't even gotten into that. I'll guarantee you this, it's probably not going to be as simple as we think it is. Although I must admit, this resin really grabbed the gold out of solution much better than I thought it would. It was,
yeah, it was incredible. Your first run was like, wow.
Yeah, I think the title on that video is, well, that went shockingly well.
It did. Yeah, it did.
You know, maybe go throw that in the bucket there. That way,
All right.
when I'm out there, I won't forget it. So, anyhow, that's why we were looking at the smelting as a first try. If we could have direct smelted it without the collector metal, it would have been real simple. With the collector metal, as long as it's highly efficient, it's still quite cheap. I mean, let's see. I figured it out, but I think the consumables run like, what was it, $30-40 per pound or something.
$33 or something.
Yeah, 30, 40 bucks a pound to process it, to get the gold out of it. When you're looking at over $2,000 a pound, yeah, that'll work. I wish I could do that every day, all day long. There is quartz in it. Montana B does have a fair amount of silica in the rocks and stuff. In the pack rat structure, the sample that was analyzed in great detail by Montana Tech was running about 1/3 dolomite limestone, 1/3 quartz, and 1/3 iron oxide. Okay. There is another like 2% of other crap there. But yeah. In the case of the perpendicular vein, we haven't done such a detailed analysis. I can tell you it has a lot of basic material in it, because when I add acid, I was doing some tests, and it foams really, it neutralizes its own weight in hydrochloric acid. Okay, so it's got a lot of lime, or either limestone or dolomite in it.
Either one or both.
But if you look at the stuff we did this fall, where we got that hard vein as part of the structure, that's quartzite. That's a hard, tough quartz. It's fairly well mineralized, but that is some tough stuff, and that is quartz. A knife will not scratch it. And good Lord, it dulls bits fast.
Yeah.
A carbide, high quality carbide tip,
Quartz or gold doesn't always have to be in quartz. That's something to remember when you're out hunting the hillsides.
Yeah.
It could be a marble, could be blue, could be white. Various gray color and blue color dolomites can carry gold. Gold doesn't necessarily, iron is always a good indicator, good iron staining or something to go along with it, but not always the case. It really does take doing assays, or definitely test panning and screening material, but doing assays is going to be your best friend. Yes, it costs money, but if you do want to find something, you're going to end up spending money on assays.
Well, and the thing is too, just because it's got quartz and iron does not mean it has gold.
Right. No.
You can have iron stained quartz with no gold in it whatsoever. You can have a fairly clean looking quartz that has a lot of gold in it.
That's Chris, you're right. It could be a slate, a black slate that's high carbon.
Yeah.
There's a lot of places that you may find gold, and good gold, that aren't going to necessarily, show quartz or white quartz.
Yeah, I'd say it. If you're following it up, you're loaming up a stream or something and then going up a hillside, pay attention to where your gold is in the samples, and don't necessarily restrict your vision to quartz.
Right.
It could be other stuff.
Yep. Yeah, if you got a slate ridge sticking out somewhere that doesn't look like it would be even interesting for gold, you still want to take a look at it.
Yeah, quartz is about the hardest standard rock, yeah. I believe you want stained quartz for better chances. Now, that's an accurate statement, but remember, it's better chances. It's statistically more likely in iron stained quartz than any other individual rock.
Correct.
But statistics are for populations, facts are for individuals. There's a certain statistical chance that you have cancer, but you either have it or you don't. You don't have 0.003% cancer. That's not how it works. So it guides your superficial observations. You look around and I know there's quartz in the area and stuff, and then you look and you see this rusty looking quartz vein with a shaft in it here and a shaft in it over there, and it's like, okay, yeah. Now the thing is, that doesn't mean the old timers didn't get that tunnel vision and go for that and miss something else either.
Definitely. No, I can show you places where they did miss the carbon, just like Chris mentioned, where you get that black slate or shale, and you get near that, and that's actually where the gold was. That carbon helped precipitate that gold out. So it wasn't the limestone and it wasn't the quartz; it was the carbon.
It's a very complicated subject, and the old timers in general didn't know near as much as we do now, and they could easily tunnel vision on something. The Comstock Lode giant silver deposit there was completely ignored for years. Nobody knew what that funny rock was.
Yeah.
And they had gold over here, and there was gold in the streams, and they were mining that. And then somebody goes, well, let me take this rock to an assay lab.
Yeah, check it.
Yeah. And voila.
Oh,
Interesting, Roberts. Little one,
Mhm.
check out Canadian Prepper announcement. See if you can get anything.
I shall. Hold on.
And in South America, they were finding this really nasty platina stuff. You know, plata is silver. This platina stuff was just clogging their sluices, and it wouldn't melt in the furnace, and they couldn't refine it. So they were throwing it. As a matter of fact, they were dumping it at sea, so it didn't get any. Yeah, because it was made out of platinum. That's where we get platinum from. So when your level of knowledge is, and I mean, my level of knowledge is big, okay? I'm sure that there are certain things that I would walk right past that somebody with a sufficient knowledge would go, whoa, dude, do you see that? It's like, yeah, I see it. It looks like a rock. Oh, no. That ain't a rock.
I've experienced that with some of the geologists I've been with.
Yeah.
You know, they're like, wait a minute, break that rock right there. And you break that rock and go, oh, shit. And, you know,
I've got to do this.
by not knowing,
Check it out.
you know, but, you know, the more you're in the field and the more you question what you're looking at and what you're looking for, you start to answer some of those questions, and the learning process gets better and better as you go. But not all gold is just coming from one type of source. And that's something that a lot of guys get hung up on, is that they're just out looking for the quartz. Well, you may have walked over a lot of good gold ground just looking for a piece of quartz.
Yeah. Well, and there's another thing, that all generalities are false.
That's true.
You know, there is no universal rule on anything, except all generalities are false, because there's always an exception.
That is true.
So that's where you want to assume, you want to go exploring or mining or milling or whatever with a level of humility.
Well, you will have one whether you want one or
You'll get
not.
If you don't have one, you will acquire one.
Yeah, you will acquire one, because you'll find out things that you thought, just like we're talking about, that, oh, I want to be looking for this. And you'll find out that the high grade's right next to it, but it's completely not what you would have expected. And then it's like, you know, it's one of those things where it's like, oh, how the hell can that be the high grade? But if you do your assays and you're sampling across the structure, you know, all of a sudden it's like, well, that's the high grade, and that's the one you would have thought would have had the least amount of gold in it.
I will tell you that.
Okay.
Rhodium is not
With
something
platinum.
Yeah, you're not. It's not something you're going to really walk out and find very fast.
Yeah, it's associated with the it's one of the platinum group, and you usually find it mixed with other platinum group metals, you know. And
Sorry, Adam.
we actually have the biggest platinum mine in the United States, not too far away, it's Stillwater. Yeah.
Yeah, after you,
Russia's the main. Russia's the main country for most of your platinum.
think they have some in Africa. too.
Yeah, they do, but Russia's one of the bigger producers. And unfortunately, they're kind of working with China, so.
No, you're kidding me.
Yeah.
Are you saying Misha is working with the Panda Patrol?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you can get it through. Well, I don't know about rhodium, but platinum, palladium, stuff like that can be gotten out
Platinum
of
group metals.
catalytic converters. Rhodium used to be quite inexpensive. They used to use it to plate silver because it made
They
it
still do.
non-tarnishing and very bright silvery color.
They still do, but it's extremely expensive now. Your best source will be catalytic converters. Of course, you don't want to steal those.
Platinum, nickel mines. Okay.
Really? Okay, Chris.
This is why catalytic converters best are going up.
Yep.
Massively.
Yep.
Perfectly free of gold, huh? Yeah, that's about right. There's a lot more quartz than quartz-bearing gold veins, that's for sure.
Well, in some quartz veins that have actually surfaced, if you got into them deep enough, you may come into gold, but you don't know where that is. So that could be 350 feet below the surface of the ground.
No, and statistically, well less than half of all quartz veins have
Right.
gold.
Well, yeah, because it's real common. Quartz, whether I think you could pretty much be anywhere in the continental United States and find some quartz.
Yeah.
We used to use it for landscaping over there in Yuma.
Yeah.
When we'd go out like quail hunting or whatever, and see nice quartz rocks in the drainage, we just put them in the back of the Jeep. We found out something interesting too. When you're taking big size, like 50-pound quartz rocks and throwing them in a pile at night,
Yeah.
when they hit, you get piezoelectric light. You actually get flashes of light. Yeah, that's pretty cool. It's not sparks.
It's
The rock
within
would
it.
actually
The
glow
energy, like a shot of
instantaneously.
energy in
Yep.
it, within it.
Yep, exactly. It was
Look
hilarious.
at you, hurting perfectly innocent rocks that are out there just being nice outside.
Yeah, you should see what we did to the quail.
You all like to injure perfectly innocent.
They didn't complain. Not the slightest.
Interesting. Come on, guys. Some more good questions.
Come on, come on. Stop the doofuses.
Yeah.
Can you come up with a question that I cannot answer related to hard rock gold mining?
Oh my God. Careful.
I'm
It'll be the comedy.
I'm
show if
mimicking
we're not
Tom
careful.
Hanks.
And very badly.
Yes, absolutely. So does my wallet. It imitates his very badly.
Exactly, Goldstream. That's what that's the thing is, if you want to be looking for more than one kind of rock when you're out there. Ideally, combinations that fit together that are indicators of gold.
Now, I don't know, Chris, perhaps you can help me on this one there. When I took geology, that would have been late 80s, the geology teacher said they had the granite,
Intrusive.
no, the granite paradox. And that is, granite is from deep-seated intrusive ore bodies, and yet the continents are made of granite. Where did all this granite come from? Granite is, that we can see being made, is a relatively small percentage. Bowen's reaction series. Well, the official one has to do with minerals, and I'm sure that Chris can tell you. And angle for regular sluice, yours.
I always start at 10%, and then I go one way or another from there. But it depends on water flow. It depends on the amount of material you're putting through it, what kind of material you're putting through it. So there's no good answer to that. You have to start somewhere, and I usually will start my sluices at about 10% and then start making adjustments from there based on material.
Going back to the hydromatic, would water injection from below keep the trays from packing solid? It has water injection. No, it did not. I can tell you that definitively. If you put enough water in it, it probably would, but then you get upwelling. One of the big problems was if you start putting more water in it, you would get channeling. You would get these spots where there would be a big current coming up, not that nice even upwelling that you would really need to turn it into the equivalent of quicksand.
9 Phoenix police officers injured in ambush, 2 people dead.
Wow.
Arizona sex rock.
There's some sandstone caves around. There's found lots of storage and plumbing companies.
No.
On toilets and heroes, busting them up with pikes. Sparks like crazy. Really? Okay.
Blind dude, that wouldn't be too steep. You know, it just depends on, like I say, the material you're running, and if you know if it works at 7 for what you're doing, and you're getting the gold, you're checking your tailings, you're not pushing gold out. Stick with with what works. That's one thing you want to learn is I don't care what you're using for equipment. You want to test your equipment also to figure out what are the limitations doing this and that with the material, and get dialed in so that you're in a recovery of somewhere between 90 and 98% recovery. You'll never get all of the gold, but you want to get most of the gold.
Question.
What?
Does the length of the sluice determine the initial angle that you try for the water?
No, it's more the material you're running, because that'll have a certain amount of drag to it, the water flow you've got, and then how it's catching in the ripples.
Type of ripples.
Type of ripples make a difference.
I forget, Chris. Let's see. Splashes, quartz thing, nickel.
Chris was on for that. He was all on.
I don't know. I don't see anything. Oh, Bowen reaction series. That's right. What's the Bowen reaction series? Because here's Keith's reaction series.
No.
See? But yeah, I know it has to do with the sequence of certain elements or minerals along a particular function. Hardness test. I really found that for field testing, for most things that I need to know, a sharp knife,
Like making
point,
a mark.
will usually give you what you need to know. If you try scratching a rock and it leaves steel on it, it's probably quartz. Okay. If it scratches easily and looks like quartz, it's probably limestone. If you're scratching something that looks shiny and metallic and it crumbles up into pieces, it's a from a melt. Yeah. Then it's a sulfide. If you try scratching it and it just gouges, it doesn't form little pieces, it just gouges, then you're looking at either a native metal or something to that, or something close to it. Some I think Galena can gouge sometimes, where instead of just crumbling, it actually gouges. But most minerals,
because
besides native metals, will break
you're
up.
Right. No, you're right. It would gouge. Yep.
Yeah.
That could work.
And then the street test.
That was in around the late 80s. And they said granite was being made, but not in the gigantic quantities, because the vast majority of the crustal plates, according to them, is granite. And it's like, okay, right now there's there's little granite intrusive scissor and thither, but where did you get a freaking chunk of granite 100 miles across? You can't inject that into a crust that's only 20 miles thick. That was the question. dental pick, that might work just fine, Terry. And so that was the question. So Chris, that was the other question. Where does all the granite come from? My geology teacher said we can see granite being formed now, but the entire crustal plates are made out of granite. How would you create an intrusive 50 miles across and 30 miles thick? You know, that's not intrusive. That's like a lava flow. I don't know. That could be. Yeah.
I'll have to go back and reread it. I think I found that to be right. Okay, I don't need that right now.
Differentiation of remelts, huh? Okay. That's I don't know. I never studied it in any detail. He just said that was the granite paradox, that we can see granite being made in relatively small quantities, but where the hell did all this granite come from? I don't know.
You gotta remember, whatever comes up also, there's a certain amount going down.
Well, yeah, but
You know,
granite does not form on the surface.
no, it's being pushed up, but there's a certain amount of ground going under that to the plates, the continental plates.
Yeah, but okay. Here's your thing. If you got a chunk of
Going
granite
down.
from here to Boise,
Yeah,
a single chunk of granite, what was covering it? You know, that was the question. According to Chris, basically it wasn't necessarily a big mass melt. It was remelted from other heat. But yeah, I don't know. I have no idea. IIRC. I know I recall if I recall. Okay.
Y'all got a
Well,
lot to do.
But I'm 65. I don't recall. Okay? Yeah.
Excuse me?
What?
How old?
I don't know. 66 now?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm
He
66
was close.
now.
He's getting old enough he can't remember.
Yeah, you're using yourself again over there. I see how
She's
you
just counting the years. That's right. Yeah. Counting the years, increasing my life insurance when I'm not looking.
Are you kidding? I can't even pay your life insurance, remember?
I think they got rules about that. I think for some
Oh,
reason
yeah.
life insurance
Yeah,
companies
right.
don't trust
Well, they
people.
don't. Yeah, yeah. Imagine that.
I have no idea why.
Yeah, it's bizarre. I can't pay his life insurance.
Less likely to break your phone and less likely to drop your phone in the water too.
Well, you can pick up a cheap magnetic angle gauge at the hardware store or Harbor Freight for a couple dollars and just slap it on there and it gives you
Magnify it.
it gives you a reference if you really want a reference. I like to leave them snapped on my box up, leaving the wash plant up close because I can always check the box in case something changed.
I mean, like a loader ran into
Yeah,
the...
right. Bumped the
plant.
plant or the plant
No.
vibrated, or
That would never happen.
Sometimes when you're working with that much water in gravel,
It sinks,
the
huh?
plant will vibrate itself into the ground, so you'll lose slope.
I was watching most of it, but I fell asleep, Chris. It's all my fault. I'm sorry. Okay. Oh my goodness. Oh, that's right. Somebody said 68 here. I presume that means your age, but right now it's -5. -5 Fred. What is the thing for F? Foxtrot. -5 Foxtrot. Yep. Take care, Roberts. Thanks for coming.
Yeah.
John, depending upon your situation, yeah, you may have to adjust more than once a day. Your water's too muddy. You can't sense what's going on in the riffles without being able to see it. Well, you're not a real plaster miner. You're just an imitation plaster miner. Did I say that right? I'm a hard rock. I wouldn't know the answer.
But what do you
You
actually
just-
do when you've got too muddy a water?
I mean, as long as it doesn't get to the point of being, the viscosity gets so bad, it's not an issue. It's just muddy water.
Well,
But, you know, if the viscosity gets too thick, it becomes chocolate pudding that hasn't set up yet. And then you got a problem because you're not going to get any separation. But
well, the other thing is too, if you have too shallow an angle, not enough water, whatever, you'll see the riffles start to plug.
yeah.
You can see
Yeah,
the
no.
flow over
Well,
them.
and if you get too steep an angle, your velocity or water speeds up, so you end up carrying further down your box or off the end of your box too. So you have to always find that happy medium. You're looking for gravity separation of the gold. The gold is 19.5 times heavier than the water, and it's about 9 times heavier than the rock that it's being carried in, the rock and gravel. So it's really just a concentrator. That's all your sluice box is, based on gravity.
Hey, Jeff, I don't want
Yeah.
that lemon pie. See the typo? Mange, not meringue.
Yeah, I
It's
get it.
mange.
Yeah, well, that's just a.
Yeah, but you can see the surface of the water as it goes over the riffles, blind.
Depending on the riffles. You know, if they're really tight, small riffles
Yeah.
or something, you'll get a little bit of a splash, but not. Ideally, you should have somewhat of a slick stream on top, so you can't see the riffles.
Hmm.
If you're seeing too much riffle action, you don't have enough water, or you don't have an angle that's
Okay.
correct, because you really want a slipstream that the lights catch in the slipstream and go instead of get replanted. Because when you get, how do I
You
describe
want a
it?
laminar flow above the turbulent
Above
flow.
the turbulent flow, because if you
Okay.
get a situation of not enough water, what happens is that it'll shovel the gravel over the next riffle, down to the next riffle, over the next riffle. It'll keep pushing using material to blade the box.
Yeah, a lot of times you can tell. When I was using the triple fed hydromatic or even my trip concentrator, I can stick my fingers in there. I can feel if I've got fluidization. I can tell how deep the bed is and how fluidized
Well,
it is.
and in a big sluice box like I run or something, yeah, you can take your finger and go down through the expanded steel or behind the riffles and see how bedded it is getting. Because if it's getting too hard, or you can't push your finger into the carpet anymore, or the miner's moss, then it's time that you got to deal with that.
Was there anything interesting in it, Adam? Oh. The Cola borehole is like 10 kilometers or something. The deepest hole ever bored. So, it was scientific. thing. The Ruskies did it. No, Soviets. Yeah, blind. That one of the nice things about test is you don't have to be really heavy in theory. The greatest theoretician can get his ass kicked by reality, but the person who tests doesn't.
That's true.
Because the testing will lead you to the truth. Theory can lead you astray.
You can have variations in your material you're running, hour to hour or whatever, day to day. But if you can get into close range and then double check to make sure you're not throwing gold off the end of your sluice or something.
Get it? The second argument.
Yeah.
greenstone. When they're talking about greenstone, they're talking about old rocks.
Oh,
And I'm not sure exactly what they are. Most of them have been metamorphosed, haven't they?
mm-hmm.
Yeah. And during the process of metamorphosis, it tends to induce differentiation where you can get your gold being concentrated, leached out of large areas and concentrated others and stuff. The greenstone belts will have gold deposits in them, but all of the greenstone does not have gold in it. It's been differentiated and reworked to that extent. Perhaps somebody knows more about what exactly the greenstones are. If not, I'm sure it's easily Googled.
They're the oldest known rocks on the planet.
Yeah.
I'm guessing that, from what I know, they are a type of granite, but they're from incredibly, incredibly deep depths.
Yeah, and I say they've been
Like
metamorphosed.
part of that Minnesota belt up there, greenstone rock.
During the metamorphosis process,
Yeah.
the heat will actually, in some types of rocks, will cook water out of the rocks.
Yeah.
And that water will pick up minerals and flow through fissures and stuff, and that creates
It's the
the ore
same
bodies.
with the batholith like here. It's the granite, the intrusive granite was what the mineralization was originally in. The heat and pressure forced, like you say, the steam or water or whatever the fluid was, forced the mineralization out into fractures or fissures or veins. The basalt, okay.
Metamorphic basalt. Okay. How would you date a rock 14 miles down? With a good geologist. Mainly it's going to be probably radio isotope dating. Quite often they find certain minerals in the rock that will contain a good record of the isotope ratios when it was formed. I know that in some of the older stuff they use actual garnets that are in the rock. And they'll separate those out and then they'll do isotope ratio analysis on the garnets. But when you're talking rocks, you're usually talking radioisotope analysis. Okay. I got it now. I had to see how to hook the two comments together. You're welcome, Argonaut. That's not bad, Lars.
That was a good comeback, Lars.
For
Anyway.
whatever time it is, 9:30. That was pretty good. I like that. I'm going to give him a 7.6 on that one. That's pretty good.
We're gonna rate them now. That might not be a good habit to start. Rate them.
Yeah.
Well, why not?
Because I don't rate. The zircons, yeah, that's right. Zircons are the things they're looking for now. They used to use garnets, didn't they, Chris? I think the zircons are for the oldest rocks, but I think the garnets work for intermediate ages. I'm not sure. That dude just gets so much crap.
Yeah, it's great to have Chris on here.
Oh yeah, he's been an invaluable assistant in a lot of stuff that I've been doing here. I mean, the guy knows so much. If it wasn't for all the help from all the different people, I could have gotten nearly as far as I have. It's something.
We have a collection of humans.
Yeah, I suppose I don't know if I'm one of them or not.
No, I'm not so sure I am. But
Chris is pretty smart, and so's
Sim and Chris and Jeff has got a lot of knowledge.
Yeah.
We got some good
Goldstream's
got a lot of knowledge.
A lot of field
Yeah,
knowledge.
I mean, we got some really good, cool people there.
Yeah. I think Goldstream also does some remote sensing and stuff with drones, if I'm not mistaken. Dude, he keeps sending me information faster than I can assimilate it.
Yeah. I got to go back and relook
You know,
at all the comments.
that
in order
book
to
that
remember what he was talking about.
I referred you to, Chris. I've gotten through, I don't know, the first 50, 60 pages of 675. Oh my God. My brain is it's so pitiful compared to what it used to be.
Speaking of 675 page book,
What? Oh, I know. Her birthday present.
the dude bought me the ultimate birthday present. If ever you want the best cookbook in the known universe, this thing has everything. Table settings, rendering facts, you would not believe it. Okay?
How to fricassee
And
an
it's older than
opossum.
I am, which is really cool.
Fricassee opossum.
Yeah. The American Woman's Cookbook. That's what that's what her grandmother taught her how to cook up.
Hmm.
That's, man, yeah. Which flavor garnet? I don't know. Raspberry's pretty good.
Savor right for me, thank you.
Ooh, that was good. I'll give that one a 7.8 for speed. Did you hear what she said?
Savorite.
Savorite. That's a mineral.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's those gorgeous green
Flavor,
garnets.
savor.
Okay, I
see what I
didn't
mean?
catch. Oh, I didn't catch.
It was so
Yeah,
fast,
okay.
it went boom, right over you, man.
Can we say whoosh?
Yeah. Oh well. Yeah. Say I was quick.
Yeah, Kodak, me too. At the very bottom of the borehole, we found quartz diorite. Okay, well, that makes sense. Yeah, diorite.
I would agree, Goldstream.
Yeah, okay,
that
that's an
if,
intrusive.
work on picking an area you want to be focused on and learn the geology of the area and look for the odd things within that geology.
The American Woman's Cookbook, Terry. And it's not in print. You have to get it used. That's why hers is used like that. But it wasn't terribly expensive. How much was that little
It
one?
was like $25.
$25.
It was published in the World War II days.
It was back
So
in
the
WW2.
inception of it started back practically in colonial times.
It's been a work of over a century to get there. You're welcome, Terry.
As everything.
Yeah, it's amazingly detailed. Yep. The macroscope, man. I don't have a macroscope. Where do you buy one? Sportsman's Warehouse?
I agree with Chris on that because you want to look at the big picture. But as somebody starting out or, not understanding some of it, it helps to look at the area you're kind of interest and then work from there out. Because the more you start to understand, the easier it is to learn, I think, sometimes. At least for me, I guess. You have something that you start with, well, you read it and you don't understand it, but then when you see it, you go, oh, okay, now I understand what that reference in that book was, and you build on that. We'll see you later, John. Thanks for being here tonight again.
Night, John.
I'm trying to.
You're learning.
Oh, just get a mute saved. Oh, glasses. Where are my glasses?
You're welcome, guys. Give it to Jim. He can see.
Yeah, I got my glasses.
Okay, this is from the
I can't see.
American Woman's Cook. Oh, that's listed illustrations. That's what I was just through there. Got 3 pages of listed illustrations. Table of contents. Useful facts about food. How to buy food. Food values and meal planning. Menu making. The lunchbox. Table setting and serving. Carving. Garnishes. Cereals. Yeast breads. Quick breads. Sandwiches. Toast. Appetizers. And they got, what is it? 2 pages on toast.
They got, 9 types of toast, basically.
Yep.
No.
Soups, fish, meat, poultry,
They have
and game.
cornucopias. Have you ever had a corn tortilla?
No, I haven't. I've seen them.
You slice a piece of homemade bread, you cut the crust off, you lay cheese in it diagonally, you fold it over, put it with a toothpick, brush it with flour, bake it in the oven, and it's an appetizer.
Hot and cold puddings, pastries and meringues, French recipes, hot and cold beverages.
Hello.
Food for invalids. Okay,
Oh, what's on that list?
I don't know. High altitude cooking, casserole and oven cookery, food equivalents, herbs, spices, and extracts, foreign words and phrases. Yeah. I say it's called the American Woman's Cookbook, edited by Ruth Berolheimer. And this one was printed in.
That's well said, Chris. That was well said.
What is the latest copyright was 1943. Oh no, this one's copyright 1944. So this one was printed in 44. But anyhow, there you go. American Woman's Cookbook.
The ultimate cookbook to learn real cooking.
Now look at this. It's actually got the little things on the side there, so you can go straight to your section. How long has it been since you've seen that?
Oh, yeah, I only used to see that on a dictionary.
Yeah. Take care, John.
Good night, John.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you think professional geologists have it bad, imagine being a doctor.
Yeah, especially nowadays with the amount of knowledge.
Oh, good.
Well,
That's why they
fast as it
specialize.
changes. Yeah.
It's gotten too complex.
Trommel versus grizzly versus shaker screen. Before high banking or before a wash plant? You too, Chuck.
Well, your high banker, you really don't want a lot of big rock going through that. So you definitely want a grizzly or some kind of screen above it, at least. I mean, a trommel, the only reason for a trommel, Jeff, is if you've got clay to break up or a really bad organics or something. Because a trommel really will slow down your process. And ideally, just kind of like I was showing here tonight, you want to be able to run the most amount of material the fastest that you can run it and be efficient. And a trommel sometimes is just not that piece of equipment. A screening plant or just a grizzly separating out rocks. If you don't need to wash the bigger rocks and that, the grizzly by itself is enough. Yeah, definitely, Chris. The wear that you get from the rocks through a wash plant, the size of the rocks going through, especially in a trommel, can just beat the hell out of equipment. And if you don't need to run them, you don't want to.
Yes, Ali, we start at 6 o'clock Mountain Standard Time Mountain Time, sometimes it's daylight time, which is Montana, United States, and it's on Mondays. So Monday at 6 is our usual start time here. Yeah, Adam, there's lots and lots of different definitions. Google can really help with that. If you wanted to ask anything, I look close to the granite within a few inches of the pyrrhotite, at least in that particular area there. This is where records can be handy if you're dealing with an area that had mining or geological exploration in the past. A lot of times that'll tell you where to look with precision. Apparently people with knowledge about trommels agree with you.
Well, if you don't need it, you can run material much faster, with a shaker screen, screen depth.
But also a lot lighter than a trommel. A lot more portable, I would think.
Well, you get into big plants, none of them are real fun to deal with. But the trommel it's a choke point in your processing that if you do not need it, you do not want it.
Okay.
It'll limit the production you can do per hour, let's say. Whether it's a little trommel, or something that you're only doing a yard at a time, or a big one where you're doing 100 yards at a time.
Yeah, Goldstream. That's why, when I got all that information from the Bureau of Mines in Butte there, it was very handy. I was going through, what are there? There's Jefferson, Lewis and Clark, Broadwater, there's one other around here. I don't know, what's just north of this one?
Powell is over here to the west of us.
I think it was Powell, but anyhow, there was like 4 counties. I went through and looked at all the mines they had information on
And the types of rock.
to see what the grades were, this and that, and then I cross-referenced with what's taken. And a lot of them around here are private land now.
Some of the good ones that had good records.
Yeah, they've been patented. But that's how I looked for targets. And we came up with half a dozen, basically. The historical records looked interesting enough. And
I started to concentrate more on areas, not so much the specific mines. The specific mines will give you information, but okay, so it's patented. Is there any other ground around those or within like a stripe?
what's this town that starts with a D down right over here? Remini, sorry, not D. Remini.
Yeah.
Stuff around Remini or Remini, whatever they call it. Oh man, it's just patented between like 20, 30 of them in it. And it's sloughed just one little spot.
Some of those were big productive mines.
Oh, yeah.
Up there.
That's
That's
it.
why they built the town up there.
Yeah, I mean, there are so many.
And they ran a railroad all the way in there at one time.
Yeah. And I suppose, Chris, yeah, you can put as many decks. Oh. Yeah.
Exactly, Jeff. Yep. That's, basically you're using it like a grizzly or a screen at that point, but yeah. If you don't need to wash those bigger rocks, there's no reason to. If you're in a system that's really muddy rocks you're pulling up and you need to wash those rocks, then you need more of an Alaskan style plant where you're capable of, washing them in a hopper box, bringing them across a grizzly or a screening deck, getting them washed again, and exiting the big rocks out of there before you pound everything to hell.
Now, you may be correct, Chris, but I'd like to know why.
It'll plug full of rocks just the right size.
Okay.
A grizzly, even bars on a grizzly can do that. I mean, I've had more frustration from grizzlies in my life but yeah, a screen, like an expanded metal screen, will find just the right size rock to start plugging every hole on it. Unless you've got an exaggerated amount of
vertical bounce,
bounce going, That's where a screen deck, the screens are designed for that slight slope and to not do that, to keep the rocks hopping to where they won't keep plugging everything.
We had one screen plant over at ChemGold. We were using it to screen to 3/16 minus. This is what's known as a hook deck.
Yeah, real fine wire.
Not necessarily a fine wire, but I mean, it was probably
3/16.
whatever your size is.
Right.
That's about a 10 gauge wire or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it was a high alloy wire.
Oh, yeah.
Equivalent like piano wire. But it gave real good throughputs. Because it doesn't have the horizontal stuff to slow anything down.
Right.
Yeah. And it processed a lot of material. We had that in a stacking conveyor. And it worked pretty well. That's how I know that we had 60% 3/16 minus on our run of mine blasted material. Because we screened it, and I mean, we would get over 50% would go through the 3/16 hard check.
You know, that would tell you that you're, you know.
Okay, I have a question for you there.
What?
With the current prices of silver, what do you think would be the lowest grade that you would want to gather mining claims that with silver?
That's going to depend on a lot of other factors, but I wouldn't worry too much unless it was about 20 ounces per ton.
Yeah, because, I mean, historically, silver has actually cost roughly $25 an ounce to mine.
Mm-hmm.
Unless it's a byproduct, strictly a byproduct of whatever else you're doing. Well, our current market price isn't even $25 as a silver mine by its standalone.
Yeah,
So, and like here where you'd have to ship rock or ore.
well, you ship cons probably. With silver, you're
Yeah,
probably looking
well-
flotation cons or something. But yeah, you're going to have to ship something.
Depends on how much lead and zinc you got.
Usually you have a lot.
The lead is more the issue. The silver, you can get a certain amount of separation. Like zinc, they can do filtration, chemical filtration. And silver, they can. But if you've got an excess amount of lead, smelting is the better way to go.
Well, I meant to just get it into a concentrate
Well,
and send it to us.
You ever try to put lead through a crusher?
Well,
You get some
lead or galena.
Well, but you get some good galena ore even and start putting it through, trying to crush it and break it up. It doesn't break up good.
It's more like a hammer mill you need for that. Huh?
Yeah, it's a mess.
So maybe we could look for one with a lot of copper pyrite, and that's polymetallic.
Then you'd be in
Probably not going to work that much silver.
you wouldn't have a high silver probably. You'd have more of a copper. If you weren't, you're looking at that area. It'd be kind of more like that mine I've got out here.
But
And that's got a certain amount of silver, but nothing, crazy. I think the most silver they ever took out was maybe 10 or 15 ounces per ton. It was mainly copper and gold and moly, high moly.
now I know up in Michigan they used to throw away the native copper
They couldn't.
because they couldn't deal with it.
No, you can't. How do you break it up? They had some pieces though that were freaking huge. They're like a boxcar sized pieces that they actually hired guys to sit there and saw it into pieces that they could actually take and melt them.
They
Yeah.
have a big piece like that in front of the,
But it had to be, at the time, it had to be valuable enough to put a crew on that just sawing that.
And back then the technology they had for sawing wasn't that good.
No, it was basically just a big hacksaw.
they've got a big one like
Yeah,
that
they
in
was-
Houston, so it's,
Oh, yeah.
They actually saw it.
Did you see how they cut the Kursk in half? Yeah. That was that nuclear submarine the Russians lost.
Yeah.
And they wanted to recover
Section.
the stuff ahead of the reactor area and everything. They took a big cable and it had round cylinders on it with carbide in the cylinders, and they could spin around and everything. And they water jetted a hole underneath the hole and ran the cable underneath there. And then they had a ship and they just tensioned the cable and were, doing like this.
Yep.
And cut through the whole damn ship.
Just the big rock size are like that. There's the cable with diamond impregnated carbides on them.
Yeah.
They can push that. They can drill 2 holes to meet. They can push that wire through that granite or whatever.
Yeah.
Pull that wire out, and they got that tensioner, and they just start the cable saw it.
Yeah, they do that a lot in quarrying. They're getting cutting stone, granite, marble, things like that. The Michigan native Cooper is crazy, huh? I do that all the time.
Some of that native copper, beautiful.
Yeah.
A friend of mine had a big piece that was all, it was like totally skeletal.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it was just gorgeous that he found it. I think he actually found it in Wisconsin, or wasn't it in Michigan?
Wow.
It was up in that same neighborhood.
So we got any more interesting questions here? We got our 4 hours in almost. I will do my best to have final answers on the smelting thingy by next live stream. Going to be working on that. Well, yeah, I want to get that done before the for my surgery. Because when is that?
Next Tuesday.
Yeah, a week from tomorrow. Yeah. But I better hustle.
Well, thanks everybody for being here tonight.
Yep. Another good stream here.
Yeah. Good questions again.
That's what really drives it, is the questions. Yeah.
Well, yeah, 4 hours goes by pretty fast when you got good questions.
Absolutely. And thank you for all the help, everybody. What's the sign for rock? Yeah.
That actually is the sign for rock, but
It
most
is.
of the fast on your fist is
Yeah.
built. Yeah. One single fist like this is rock, and this is big.
Okay.
All right.
You say so. See you Wednesday, Lauren. Oh, it's just a bunch of guys getting around and talking, Allie. It's not a bunch of egos or whatever. And you may have noticed that we got, if somebody has a question, everybody jumps in trying to help out with whatever they know or what they see or whatever.
Yeah.
Have fun with the nurses. I'll be unconscious. Okay. At least I hope so. If I'm not, I'm going to be very annoyed. It's outpatient anyhow. So I'll have this lady here to nurse me. So I'll try to have all the fun I can. Yeah.
Yeah.
You take care, Lars. Yeah, Eva is just dying to start smelting some copper. It's hilarious.
I got a plan.
Uh-huh.
We're going to make kilo bars, and then we're going to make a little wall that shows the average amount of copper in a typical two-bedroom home in America. So I can take a picture with it.
She's happy.
Okay.
I doubt it. I doubt that she's wearing.
He's getting a hernia operation. He won't be any good for a while anyway.
Yeah.
I'm not going to comment. I shall preserve his dignity. Y'all can draw your own conclusions.
Anyhow. All righty, everybody.
Thanks again, guys.
Have a nice night. You take care. Happy prospecting and keep it safe out there. Oh, end stream. And Lauren wants try to get Jim over too.
We will. I'll get over there one of these days.